Well, aloha, everyone. How are we doing this evening? I'm going to have a big crowd tonight, hopefully, to talk about books, Cooper books, with my good friends Nicole Legg and Darren Schaefer. Hello, some people from the UK. Hello, Oracle. Hello to Poirot in Cornwall. Hope to hear from you soon. Irving Johnson. Irving Johnson. Irvin would be cool, a cooler name. Sorry, Irving. Or Irvin Johnson. That'd be cooler. Irvin, Magic Johnson. Hello. I always think about Bruce Smith's, didn't Ted Braden tell Bruce Smith that Charles Barkley was the name of DB Cooper?
No, I believe that was in his remote viewing. Cooper's name was Charles Barkley.
But it was Braden who told him that.
I'd have to reread
in
that.
His remote viewing, right. he remote viewed to the Vietnam jungle and met with Ted Braden. I think.
I thought he remote viewed to the plane.
That's
right?
what I thought too.
Yeah.
Maybe it was. But I thought he remote viewed with Ted Braden though too. I swear he communed with, or maybe that's something he told me privately. I'm not sure. Somebody there. Jude. Hello, Jude. 1-star review on Apple. Oh, hell, he says, hello, former friends that didn't cover my book on the 5-part series. You guys suck. 1-star review on Apple, Spotify.
Yeah, my bad. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I know you did. You did one fiction book. You could have done 2.
We did do 2 fiction books.
Oh, the Real McCoy?
Did.
No, we did. Ha
ha ha. And the man in 18E.
Okay, that's true. My bad. Although the Real McCoy is fiction though, for sure. Yeah. No, Drew. So Drew Beeson says it's in Bruce's book. So Drew, doesn't Ted Braden tell him that the guy's name is Charles Barkley? Am I missing that? Am I forgetting that, Drew? Or is that like a different thing? I know he says he met with Ted Braden in the jungles of Vietnam. It's like, okay. He says, okay, he just says Ted told Bruce it was another military guy. Well, that's obvious. I would think we all agree that Cooper was a military guy for sure. I mean, he may have been a mechanic or something, but like your husband, to get the tie particles, maybe. Mm-hmm. I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know, but although I guess that's not. I guess that tie is not a military tie though. Although they did wear ties in the military, but I don't think they wore those type ties.
I think it depends on your uniform. I don't think Brad has. When he was in the Navy, he wore like the Cracker Jack uniform, his dress blues, and in the Air Force, I don't know. I think I've seen it on him once. We just never need to wear it. He's always in his camouflage. What they call them? BDUs, I guess they call them. Yeah.
Drew, it's Charles Barkley was the guy's name. I guess Drew missed that part. Yeah, it was Charles Barkley was the name that Drew says the name was never traced to a real person. Anyway, okay, so people are joining.
That was him remote viewing on the plane. And on the plane,
I think so.
It was Charles Barkley.
But did Cooper say, hey, my name is Charles Barkley? I guess.
I don't remember. I'd have to read that remote viewing chapter again. But I'm coming around on remote viewing.
I've had some, I guess I'm Mr. Agnostic, but I've had some weird experiences in my life. So,
all the UFO people are super into remote viewing, and I don't understand why.
Well, but that's different though. Like aliens aren't supernatural. Or they're not supposed to be, right? I mean, they're actual things. They're, what I'm saying? Like, I mean, they don't get here by supernatural means. So supernaturalism and UFOs are not. I mean, they don't always go together. They don't have to go together. So, Mary J, hello from New Zealand. Mary says Zoom calls are remote viewing.
That's a good point.
That's a good point.
Is true.
So what we are here to talk about though is you guys read 10 Cooper books in 2 months?
Mm-hmm. Technically 11.
11, but yeah.
One wasn't on our list, but I did that interview with James Lane, and he has like that 50-page book.
A pamphlet.
Yeah, and Nicole just took it on herself to throw that in the mix as well.
I didn't want to be left out.
Well, yeah, like I'll say this. If your book isn't thick enough to have the name written on the spine, it's not a book. It's a pamphlet. It's like, I look at my bookshelf and like, there's that book and I can't even read the title of it. Right. I can't even read it. It's like, I can just tell the color of it. It's that book that Tim Collins is
my father.
Yeah, Cooper's my father, and I don't think Marla's book. Does Marla's book have a spine?
I don't have Marla's book.
You have a physical copy of Marla's book?
I thought I did. Maybe I don't.
I thought about getting a physical copy, but it's like $100.
What? Oh, then I guess I don't then.
Because it's like
Okay.
print to order or something.
Oh.
Yeah. Drew says he agrees with my assessment that if you can't read it on the spine, it's not a book. It's a pamphlet. Like James Lane's book, you know. And look, I looked up his dad. You know, his dad isn't like impossible to be Cooper. You know, I don't believe it, but he's enough of the age, I guess, and he doesn't look terrible. You know, he's got long face or whatever. You know, he looks better than some other suspects we deal with, right?
Yeah.
I mean, did you look him up, Darren?
No,
Nicole?
I didn't see him.
Yeah, I looked him up a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, you know, it's
he's a good match for the sketch.
Well, everyone
Who
knows,
isn't?
Right? He goes, Packer says, I'm with Jude. They skipped mine too. Well, but they said it was too recent though.
I had just read this. The reason we chose those two fiction books is because I had never read Ha 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 cover to cover.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I had also never read Man in 18E.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I bought that book like the second it came out because it was promoted on the forums, but I just never cracked into it. So that's why we chose those two books. And Ha 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 had to be one of the fiction books.
Yeah. Well, I bet you regret that, don't you?
Yeah. It was so bad.
Kind of, yeah.
Yeah. It's just,
It was so bad.
I've got a copy too, and I got a cheap copy too. I don't know how I really lucked into my books. Like I got Real McCoy from Bruce. I got the Sheridan Peterson book from Bruce. My Tousaw is signed to Bruce from Tousaw.
Oh, wow.
I just inherited Bruce's books, which was a fun thing. But no, here's what you're going to do. You're going to have to do like a postscript. When my book comes out, you can do mine and you can do Dan Cooper and Where Was Skip. You can do the ones that were a little too recent. Yes, she goes, will there be a season 2? Yeah, they're going to have to be a season 2 for my book whenever mine comes out, for sure. I mean, duh. Right, you can do my book and you can do Where Was Skip, and you can do Dan Cooper.
Dan Cooper, yeah.
Which, by the way, you didn't slip it. Jude thinks he's being cute because he names the idiot brother Eric, and you weren't. Jude thinks he's being cute by naming him Eric, but we're on to you, Jude. I know what that's about. Like a very inside joke there for the Vortex. No offense to Eric, but hey, you know, Eric is chasing down the is it plutonium? Nicole, is that what's on the
he's doing the molten salt reactor. The molten salt reactor using thorium.
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 Okay. Yeah. Well, so now is it plutonium or uranium that's on the tie?
Uranium and thorium.
Uranium. I thought it was plutonium. Okay.
Uranium.
So plutonium is much rarer than uranium, right?
Well, you make plutonium.
You make it. So that now, if he had plutonium on his tie, that would be a story. That would be really like you'd be able to like this guy worked in a nuclear manufacturing, like made bombs and things.
Something like that. Yeah.
Or it was Doc or Marty.
Right. So basically, no plutonium on the tie yet.
Yeah.
He says,
we still have stubs to scan.
Lots of them, actually.
Yeah.
I mean, hell, I think only some. I mean, only a good bit. Only some of the tie has been only like I'm not sure what the percentage is, but it's not a lot of the tie has been thoroughly scanned. So, but that tie is filthy. But anyway, we'll see. So basically, the books that I was listening along, and as you listen along, I have thoughts, and I was like, okay, well, I got to have a show to have them on because I have thoughts. So I really liked your comments on Into the Blast here because I think one of you described it as this is how you get on TV, the book. It's like, this is the book. It's almost like Max Gunther's How to Get Rich book. This is like how to be on TV. And, like it is really like, it's so detailed because I remember reading that book and being like, he's like, oh, and then the executive producer's name was this, and in the camera, the best boy's name was like, and then the key grip. It's like, well, okay, man, but talk about Kenny or whatever. But
Yeah.
I mean,
I really do want a copy of the original version.
Yeah, like, but was the original version, I guess, before the show?
Yes.
Before they made the Nat Geo Skyjacker that got away, or is that what it was?
Yeah,
I think so. Yeah,
that's the one where Kenny's featured. No. It's decoded.
Yes,
yeah,
that's
decoded.
it. Decoded.
Yeah,
Brad Meltzer's Decoded.
But Kenny is featured in Skyjacker that got away, though, right? As well in that documentary.
Yeah, he's in a couple of the 2011 to 2016 ones.
Yeah, I was trying to think the other day of which Cooper suspects have been portrayed on TV. So it's not just Cooper, but which Cooper suspects have had people acting as them, right? And I obviously that guy was, well, I guess the guy is supposed to be. Well, no, he's doing Kenny Christensen things allegedly in the Skyjacker that got away. The actor guy, he's like buying a house for $200,000 or whatever it is, right? So there's that. There's the HBO doc had a McCoy, they had a Barb, they had a Dwayne. They didn't have an LD Cooper though. I've not seen an LD Cooper yet, but there damn well needs to be a Ted Braden at some point.
Yeah.
I mean,
I would watch that.
Yeah, absolutely. I just rewatched the HBO one the other day and I forgot Jerry was on it. I was like, the whole podcast, yes. I was like, who's Jerry? And then I was like, there's Jerry.
The man who spent his life looking in the wrong place.
In the wrong place.
Like, bless him. Like, I mean, at some point, like, if he was such good friends with Himmelsbach, and Himmelsbach's a pilot, did him ever be like, hey, man, you're like about 15 miles the wrong direction? Like, but see, Himmelsbach, though, like, it's weird. Like, one thing that I've learned, like, getting to know the FBI guys, is that we know more than they do. Like, just to be blunt about it.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, they can tell us. I think where it benefits us to know them is just knowing what they had at their disposal to do these things. Like the fact that, like, John Detler was talking about how they had 4 desks with one phone, and there was one phone per 4 desks, and they worked and this was the Norjack phone. And like, if it rang, okay, well, what do we have going on? Or like that Larry didn't have a searchable database. Like, I wrote in my book about how with Larry, like the whole cigarette butts thing, for the longest time in the Vortex, we really genuinely believed that the cigarette butts were lost.
Mm-hmm.
Like that was the thing, because that's what Larry said repeatedly. Larry said, okay, they were lost. And we had no reason to doubt him. And so that we ran with that. And so for the longest time, and I heard Jeffrey Gray, like somebody posted on Facebook, Jeffrey Gray, like just did an interview on CNN or something.
Yeah.
And mentioned the cigarette butts being lost. I'm like, no, like, better than that. Cause I've told them that. But they repeat it. And if Larry had, what we have, where I can just type in a search and search all 50,000 documents, he could have put in, like we do, or I do, butts. Mm-hmm. And every single document I can trace, I can trace it to see what happened to the butts. Larry would have had to go through, you had to look for butts. I like Cooper's butts, I cannot lie. But like Robert Blevins might, what's the, I don't know, might cry. I don't know. I don't know what I'm saying. Anyway, I was trying to do a rap, but anyway, but like, Larry would have to find the one document we have where it's like the butts were destroyed. Larry would have had to go through manually 50,000 pages to find that.
Yeah.
Right. And so to his best knowledge, hey, evidence should be in this little box I've got. And these cigarette butts are not in the box. And Larry did look around for it. Larry looked for the hair slide. He said he went through every little folder that might have had the hair slide in it, shaking it out. Is it in here? He looked for it, and he did find the wrong guy's hair slide, but not Cooper's. But Jude says the files are hilarious. The FBI's mental gymnastics over the decades, pretending they give a crap about Cooper when they had other stuff going on. Yeah, I mean, they cared enough, but I was thinking, about how another thing too, like things at their disposal. So like the mad doctor, James Roman, right? We know James Roman, I think he's a good suspect, the astronaut suspect. Roman, when you read his case file, they can't find a picture of the guy. They started the investigation and went all the way to the end of the investigation into this guy. They eliminated him, but they eliminated him because the only reason that they eliminated James Roman, they never got a picture of him. They were never even able to get descriptive data. Like they didn't even have like his height or anything. And this is all in the FBI files. And it's like, we can't find it. We're trying to get a photo of the guy. We're trying to get descriptive data. And the only reason they eliminated this guy who was a madman who lived in the drop zone.
Yeah.
Is because they talked to his ex-wife and she said, oh yeah, this is in like 1982. She's like, oh yeah, in November 71, the day before Thanksgiving, he was with me doing this. I'm like, okay, maybe you could remember Thanksgiving 2014, but do you remember the day before Thanksgiving 2014 where Brad was? Like,
no, I don't remember many Thanksgivings.
I know.
I guess
so,
I just assume that we're
like,
all together.
on that alone, they eliminated him. And whereas, and I wrote this in the book too, whereas that's the difference. Like John Detler and these guys were like begging for a photograph of Roman. And literally when I came across Roman in the files, in 5 minutes, I had his draft card. I knew he was 5'11", had brown hair. I had photographs of him because hell, he was an astronaut. Lots of photographs of James Roman. And he's a decent match. He has a weird lip, and a little skinny head. But yeah, so like just it's crazy how the FBI, I mean, they tried, but they just didn't have a lot to work with. Right. Well, and
you've got it easier. Like you said, you can search it much easier than they could. They would have to just go through all the different files.
No, it's hard enough chasing a ghost in the 21st century like we do. But these guys were chasing a ghost. Basically, the only way, and this is kind of the thesis of my book is that the only way they were ever going to catch Dan Cooper was if he literally fell in their lap. Like if somebody said, "Hey, this is the guy. Here is this. I found this in my brother's basement or whatever." Like no amount of detective work was ever going to solve this. Like none. Because he's too much of an enigma, and there's not enough evidence. To catch it. Again, you say, well, if they hadn't destroyed the cigarette butts, they could have done all this or whatever. But anyway, I'm rambling, but that's what I do on this show. So I'll go back to Into the Blast, though. Kenny, what's interesting about, and I guess you guys kind of hit on it a little bit when you were discussing these books, is when you read books, they almost like, Nicole, you're kind of newer to the Vortex, I guess.
Yeah. Well, yeah, in the books.
Yeah. And so like, they kind of take you to a place in time. Like I remember being intrigued by Kenny Christensen at one point.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought he was D.B. Cooper. Yeah.
Me too.
I read 2 books. Oh, it's Kenny Christensen.
I know. And it's just wild that it kind of takes you back. Like, man, was I like naive? Or it wasn't naive. You're just not educated enough about the case yet.
Yeah.
That's all. It's nothing. And that's why like people are like, oh, Ryan's nice to these newcomers. And I'm like, well, but everybody was a newcomer at some point, and if you're going to be a jerk to them, then, I think about how many people who would really benefit the case may have been run off by somebody being a jerk to them, and they're not part of our community. Yeah. Nikki says, you don't know what you don't know.
Yeah. And
then of course, and
then we're going to be wrong again.
Well, exactly. The more I learn, the less I know is what I think about the Cooper case. Like it's like, again, I keep going back to the thing of Star Trek, the Kobayashi Maru, which is like the unsolvable test that you have to take in Starfleet Academy, an unwinnable test. It's like, this is an unsolvable case. And I'm afraid that it is a unsolvable case. Anyway, Packer says Darren is the quiet sage this evening. Like he's the sole recipient of the coveted Knutson Award. You do have that Knutson Award somewhere, I'm sure.
I do. It's on my shelf next to me.
No, but Into the Blast, though, we'll go through book covers too. This bugs me. That's a modern parachute, right? I'm bugged by that. I don't like it, and it's not the true story.
And he's
I don't like it. And he's steering it. Yeah, he's got the risers to steer, and it's the wrong thing.
Coat.
Nope. Yeah, there's no trench coat. People forget the damn trench coat. Like they always forget that, I don't know. But Into the Blast, though, it was fun listening to you guys. Blevins is not a bad writer.
No, not at all. He's a great writer.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and it would be, if he ever wrote his Cooperland book, it would be nice to read. I don't know if he ever did.
I want to read that book so badly.
If it's real, though, it's almost like a myth. It's like there's this like myth of this Beatles song called Carnival of Light, which is like a 20-minute Beatles song that was never released. It's like it's a myth. There's faint whispers of Cooperland out there somewhere, and I'm not sure if Blevins will ever post that. Let's see.
Was it Blevins that moved to Alaska?
No, that's Galen Cook.
That's it. Yeah.
No, and Blevins will gladly tell you that the Into the Blast still puts gas in his car every month. He will never miss the opportunity, Robert, if you're watching, to mention on Reddit, oh yes, my book is the number 2 best-selling Cooper book of all time. How he knows that, I don't know.
I don't know. His sales numbers are pretty unbelievable.
That's what he says. He. But I don't doubt it. That was obviously Skyjack, I would guess, is the biggest selling Cooper book.
It's got to be
to date. But I don't know. But, I think Into the Blast, he's probably right on that. I don't think, would you agree that, Darren, Into the Blast is probably number 2 in sales?
I'm not sure. That's hard to say. I'm sure it was for a period of time.
What would have surpassed it though in book sales? Maybe Bruce's book,
or maybe Dr. Edwards' book.
Yeah, Edwards' book was actually published by a real publishing company, which is rare.
There was a lot of news stories that came out about that book when it came out at the time.
Well, there's not a lot of actually the only books, and this is a problem that we ran into with Wikipedia, and hopefully nobody on Wikipedia is watching, because Drew's book, I snuck Drew's book onto Wikipedia. I don't know how, but it was a miracle. I guess Drew's publishing company sounded reputable enough, but a book has to be, to cite a book on Wikipedia has to be a reliably sourced book from a legitimate, they call it a legitimate publishing house, right? So all these self, Amazon, things even awesome publishers like the ones that did Where Was Skip, right? That's not a reputable publisher. So the only ones that are reputably published are Skyjack, The Last Master Outlaw, which is insanely stupid.
Who's the publisher on that?
It's somebody. It's a real publisher though. And the Edwards book. It's 3 books, and then there's that kid's book, or that. I figure that it's a little book, and it's got on the cover, it's got the flight crew on it. It's like a thin book, Darren. You know what I'm talking about?
Is it Tom Sullivan or is it Carol?
It's the woman's book. Yeah, it's the woman's book. Yeah,
it's Kim Carroll or Carol Kim, something like that.
Yeah, it's the woman's book. Yeah, let me see. Actually, let me pull that up, because there's actually a website called dbcooperbooks.com or something like that. So I think I can. I can find that out.
Know that.
Right?
You don't know that? Yeah, it's called dbcooperbooks.com. Go check it out now, people. But I don't know what that.
I did know about this.
Yeah, DB Cooper.
Well, need to be involved in it, and I didn't feel like doing it.
Well, what really makes me mad though is I was actually working on a book. So in addition to this book that I've spent forever writing, that everybody knows about my damn book. In addition, though, I was writing a kid's book. I was writing in the middle of writing a kid's book. I was writing one of those Who Was books, because I was in Barnes Noble a while back, a couple years ago, and I saw these books, and I was like, oh, I could do this for DB Cooper. And sure enough, a few months ago, this popped up on Amazon. I was like, no! I was literally going to write this. I was going to write that book, for the kids. I had bought several of these ones. There's one for Ben Franklin and some other people. I bought the one for Jesse James because I was like, how do you write a kid's book for a villain, right? And so like I was literally, it's a series of books and you can like submit it and they'll publish it, right? And like, I was writing the kid's book for DB Cooper, and whoever this person is, Kirsten Anderson. I was very upset about that. I was very displeased. Aww. But you could
do it better.
I don't know. Steve Allen says, "Can we talk shit about Grider?" Yeah, actually, I was listening to Jude and Ned on Black Box Radio. It was a good interview, by the way. Jude, and they were talking about how like Dan jumps out the plane holding onto the money bag. It's like, bro, like, does Dan not know anything about this case? Like, I don't think he does. Like, I mean, for a guy who is held up as something who, I mean, people think he knows things. He doesn't know anything. Like, remember, he thought that it was a leather bank bag. It was, it was a leather bag. And then D-rings, Burns was asking me about D-rings. Well, Cooper was bitching because the leather money bag didn't have D-rings. Like, what are you talking about, man? Like,
but he's also referencing the book, the McCoy book as well. So
does the book mention the leather bank bag?
No, but he's using that as part of his.
But like
information.
I don't know.
We all know.
Well, I'm trying to think. I mean, but the problem is McCoy never said he was Cooper, and never mentioned holding on to a bank bag and losing it or whatever. Like, this is all just inventions of, I guess we'll just go ahead and skip, because we're on Grider. We'll go ahead and skip ahead to the real McCoy. That's really what I want to talk about. So I have rage for that book. Like, those guys are unscrupulous.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
It's bad.
I mean, like, the problem when you read that book is you don't know, like, I mean, I cite it in my book for the McCoy stuff, for like, how McCoy jumped and things like this. And
it's the only book on McCoy.
Yeah. But the problem is, like, how much of that is accurate? Right? I mean, how much of the McCoy stuff is that? We know the Cooper stuff is bullshit. So I'm like, well, how much of the McCoy stuff is bullshit too? That I can't verify. Karen saying toodaloo, Richard, when she drops him off at the airport. Like, that's nice, but is that real or not? Right?
Yeah.
I mean, is that just fiction?
I mean, I don't know how much the McCoy 302s have.
Not that. I mean, I've read through all of them. Is Pete Zimmerman alive? Get him on. Well, I mean, what's Pete going to say? He's going to say, well, I gave this bumbling fool a ride in a jumpsuit. He paid me $20 and I dropped him off at his front door. See, we used to think that he dropped him off at on his street, but no, he dropped him off like in front of his house, apparently.
Yeah.
Which is like, okay. See, McCoy, I mean, with respect to like Shantae and Richard, like, I kind of call him McCoy hijacking McDoofus, because like, bless him, like he made some bad mistakes. Like, the problem is he ran his mouth.
Yeah, that was the problem.
Yeah.
I mean, it's the problem with McNally too. Mac talked to people about it, and that got Mac in trouble. So whoever Cooper was, he either only ran his mouth to Joe Johnston and then killed him shortly after, or he had no accomplice at all.
Yeah.
Well,
I mean, the universe gave McCoy so many times to turn around, and he still kept on going. Like,
I know. And it's crazy that, like, I remember y'all reminded me of the part about the pony or whatever, right? Like, what are you doing? Like, I mean, ponies require maintenance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Housing, food, lots of things. They're not cheap.
Could have got her a necklace.
Yeah. But yeah, I think the main thing about the McCoy book is if you read it, and like I said, anybody who's listening to this, you can go onto archive.org, sign in with your Gmail account or whatever, and you can read the Real McCoy book for free in nice, legible pages.
Yep. And
Nicole, that's what you did, right?
That's exactly what I did. Yeah. It's a book that's scanned.
Yeah. And it's scanned, and you can just read it. Tousaw is on there as well.
Okay.
So for those who don't have the Tousaw book, and Norjack is on there too. So our three most expensive Cooper books, are on archive.org for free to read. So if you don't want to spend, although Himmelsbach's grandson has been selling those for about $50 on eBay, brand new, copies of Norjack, which we'll get to that in a little while. But the Real McCoy, though, when you're reading it, though, the main thing is that you're just so sad for the guy.
Yes.
Yeah. It's really sad. I feel so bad for McCoy. I'm going to always stand up for him now, I think. It's just really sad. Really sad.
Well, and what's interesting is that you guys brought up the good point that almost like Karen, it makes you wonder how much of this was Karen's doing, honestly. Or, I mean, like maybe she's like, oh, you're so obsessed with this Cooper thing. Why don't you do it yourself? What are you, a man or not? It's like, oh, okay. I mean, maybe because, he was threatening to go back to Vietnam. And she said, I'll divorce you if you go back to Vietnam. And he wanted some adventure, I guess. And he gets into skydiving and all this other stuff. And apparently, like in the FBI files for McCoy, there are just like we have the Cooper FBI files, there are the McCoy FBI files. And they're about 1,000 pages. And Denise, the sister, boy, they paint a very unflattering picture of her on the ranch.
She's living her best life.
Yeah, she was. It was like, she would do anything that moved. She was trying to seduce these guys who worked on the ranch. Remember? And they're like, I'm quitting because there's a 15-year-old girl who's trying to like touch me. I'm out of here.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not going to jail. I think they called her like Miss Jailbait or something like that. I was like, very.
I don't know what to think about her. I don't know what to think about her at all.
No, and in fact, speaking of that, I've got and I'm going to try to find it. I hope that I've got it I should have already had it up here, but in McCoy, in the FBI files a while back, I came across, might be in my McCoy folder. I came across where, Karen was bitching about, either, I guess it's Bernie Rhodes or Calumet, one of the two. This must be it right here. Yeah. Okay. I think I filled it in, or I tried to fill in the redactions. Okay, it says here, for those listening, on January 24th, 86, Karen McCoy, the widow of Richard Floyd McCoy Jr., contacted the Salt Lake City office of the FBI and was quite upset that the entire issue regarding her personal background had been brought up by the newspaper, and specifically her involvement. She stated it was a dark period in her life, and she had hoped to put it behind her family. She stated that her two children, that'd be Richard and Shante McCoy, would not even attend school since the article appeared. She stated that it was her opinion that in no way was her husband identical to D.B. Cooper. And although the paper stated that Callum had conversations with her, she could not recall speaking with him at all. However, she did state that she did talk to a probation officer, that'd be Rhodes, during the pre-sentence report on her husband, and that if that individual was Callum, she would have spoken with him at the time. She added, if any of the information appeared in any book, she believed that would be an ethical violation of Calumet's position, if not against the law. She stated that Callum had literally hounded her by phoning and coming to her residence to the point where she is considering legal action to keep him away. I guess that could see Rhodes. Okay, that actually could be Rhodes instead of Callum there. So it's the same number of Rhodes. Yeah, so Rhodes. Yes, it's probably actually Rhodes, not Callum there, or Calumet, whatever. But yeah, there's that. And then of course we have, during all this discussion, in 86, when Karen McCoy is bitching about stuff, we have in the FBI files, there's this pops up. It says, wait, never mind. That's not it. Okay. My bad. Let's see. There is one where the agents are talking about how ridiculous it is that McCoy was Cooper. Essentially, they're saying that, I wish I could find it.
I think I've seen that one shared before, probably from you.
Yeah.
Ryan.
Yeah, I know. I wish I could find it, but anyway, they're basically what it was saying is that it's these two FBI guys gossiping basically in their 302s. And they're like, can you believe that Callum is writing a book about DB Cooper? He must just be doing this for money. He must need the money because this is crazy. There's no way that McCoy was Cooper. What a joke. So like, they're like gossiping saying, can you believe this guy? There's no way McCoy was Cooper. We all know this. Like, we investigated him thoroughly and clearly he wasn't Cooper. And so, there's that. I wish I could find that. Yeah. But Karen though, Karen was a Spitfire. And Nicole, I mean, you read her obituary, and I did too. She was very accomplished.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think she got a doctorate degree or something.
Yep. So that's why I was so torn, because I know, like you said, Darren, no one's going to speak ill of you in your obituary, but all of her accomplishments, I just tried to figure out and I tried to figure out how much they tried to paint her in a bad light just to make themselves look better versus what was true. That was the hard part. And of course, I don't think Myrtle would probably have much to say about her. That was good. Boy,
Myrtle, who married her cousin.
Yeah.
Is that right? Yeah, Myrtle's the first cousin marry her. Perhaps that's why McCoy had a birth defect, perhaps with his mouth. Yeah. I mean, just guessing. Yes, Elizabeth's saying, is all this in the Real McCoy book? Yeah, all the stuff about the sister and everything. And I like the fact that the good Mormon McCoy starts cussing Denise out. Like, he just explodes on her. Like I would too, man. You idiot. Like, because for those who don't know, basically when the skyjacking is taking place, I guess Van Yperen, Van Yperen, who's working as a sheriff's dispatcher, is like, oh my God, there's a Cooper skyjacker coming over Utah. Let me call Richard. So he calls the McCoy house and goes, hey, where's Richard? He's not going to believe this, because knowing that he's obsessed with DB Cooper. And Karen's like, he's not. Denise is like, he's not here. And neither is Karen.
Yeah, I think he's on. I think involved.
I think it's him. And he's like, what? She's like, It's like, you idiot. Like, shut your mouth, So he was like, you can't keep your mouth shut. And like, don't let Denise in on anything.
No.
Well, she's like 15 at the time?
No, she was in college. Remember, she was going to like community college or somewhere in Utah or somewhere.
Yeah,
she was in
that's
college.
Right. Yeah.
And she had dropped out or something.
Okay.
I think she was she was like 18 or 19. And, she watched the kids. And that's the thing about it too, is Dan Grider, basically, he's unscrupulous because he's putting words in her mouth. Like, he goes and interviews Denise in these, and I think I'm going to do a full scale review of the Dan Grider documentaries, kind of like I do all the other things, just so I can talk through it. Because people, I think people will watch those if I'm narrating over it instead of just watching it straight. Because I'm that way with some things. I'm like, I don't want to watch that, but I'll watch it to hear this guy talk over it. And so maybe it'll be that way with the McCoy stuff with Dan Grider, because that stuff is basically, he goes and talks to Denise and he's like, so you watched the kids in November. She's like, yeah, they, she's like, around Thanksgiving, I watched the kids that year. It's like, yeah, we know that. It's in the FBI files. You watch them after Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
Because after Thanksgiving lunch, McCoy and Karen go to Vegas for an anniversary trip or something like that, right? And we have their mileage. We know they did this. We have them calling from the Tropicana Hotel, checking on the kids that night. Hey, are there, and but Grider's like, aha, see, they were gone the week before. He basically just pivots and says, oh, well, she's admitting that she watched the kids the week of the Cooper hijacking. It's like, no, she didn't say that at all. She goes, oh yeah, around that time I watched them. Because she says she didn't remember. And so he's putting that stuff in her mouth. Drew's probably right. He goes, Drew says, more than half of the people that defend McCoy on YouTube videos are Grider himself. Possibly. Although I do think I thoroughly beat the hell out of him on the parachute stuff. He's not mentioned that at all. And there is no rebuttal to that, because there is no rebuttal to it. Again, those who don't know, we're looking for a Ford. Dan found a Chevy. And no chance in hell that he found that. But and
you have the Ford. You have.
Yes, I mean, right behind me. I have the Ford. I have the prototype. That is the Earl Cossium one right there.
Yeah.
Earl Cossium put that one together himself, which is pretty cool. But the anyway, but yeah, the Real McCoy though, I like what you guys, I mean, basically you guys had the same thing. And, although Darren, I do think though, Drew might know this too. I feel like in books back then, they would call pistols automatics. So it's like a 45 automatic. And instead of saying a 45 semi-automatic, I think they would say like this is a 45 automatic. Like they're not saying he's had a pistol automatic pistol. I think that's their nomenclature to differentiate it from being a revolver.
Yeah, I did discuss this with an older guy, and he was like, it was automatic. Just like that would have been the term used for it at that time.
Yeah. And like, so that was a quibble, but we're talking about guns though. See, I was texting with Nicole a couple days ago. We're talking about O'Hara. Is it Nick O'Hara? Or is it O'Hare?
I think it's O'Hare.
O'Hare, yeah. That guy, he may as well have blood pouring out of his mouth.
Yeah.
When Dan Grider is interviewing him about killing McCoy. Like he's proud of it.
He is.
Like
and brought his shotgun. Check this out. This mark right
notch
here. That's McCoy. It's disgusting.
Those are the people to be scared of. That's just disgusting. That's not someone you want to come across.
Like, Larry, I mean, like the FBI guys that I know personally now, like would never like be that way about killing somebody. They would say, well, the guy drew down on me and I didn't want to kill anybody, but I had to because I'll defend myself. Most cops are like that. They don't want to, they're not like, and McCoy wasn't like, it's not like you're killing Dillinger or somebody. I mean, it's McCoy. I mean, and Melvin Walker though, I do think that one thing y'all got wrong though, is that Melvin Walker was the bigger deal actually. Of the two. Melvin Walker was on the FBI's 10 Most Wanted. McCoy was never on the FBI's 10 Most Wanted. So, Melvin Walker was a real bad guy. And that, I remember for those listening, so like, I remember, I asked Mac, because Mac knew everybody in federal prison. Mac's the godfather of federal prison. He's been there 38 years, right? And Mac was in Marion, which is what replaced Alcatraz. So Mac knew the worst of the worst. And Mac has so many stories that like about prison that that stuff needs to be recorded. I mean, before he's gone, because like it is so good. But I asked Mac, I said, hey Mac, did you know Melvin Walker? He said, oh yeah. I think they called him like Al or something. He's like, yeah, I knew him. Yeah, he was an asshole, yada, yada, yada. And I was like, so let me ask you this, Mac. So Melvin Walker was in prison for like multiple like bank robberies, I think. Okay. And his sentence was like, I don't know, 55 years or something ridiculous like that. So Melvin Walker escapes with McCoy in 72. And he's out in like 83. What do you think about that? Mac's like, he was a goddamn rat. And I was like, yeah. Like that's the only way. And I know from doing federal, I mean, as a defense attorney working in the federal system, I have a lot of my clients, go through the federal courts. I deal with FBI guys all the time in my real life. And like, that's not how it works. Like if you get fed time, you do your time.
Yeah.
Unless you're pardoned somehow or you'd work a deal. And I am convinced because see, the whole thing about like one person goes in the house while we circle the block or whatever like that. Like, I think that was used to Melvin's advantage to say, okay, well this time, I'll send McCoy in, or what I'll be driving or whatever it is. And so that's what I think. I think that he was tired of running, Melvin was, and said, hey, I'll work a deal. I'll give you McCoy. I'll turn myself in and I'll give you McCoy if I can get a deal. Cause like, that's the only way. Look, Mac served 38 years because he escaped. Like that was the main reason why, because he didn't behave himself. And Melvin Walker and Mac didn't escape. He tried to escape, right? Like Melvin Walker escaped and committed kidnappings and like they robbed a bank, didn't they? Or maybe two?
Yeah, a couple.
Yeah. I mean, didn't they get in a shootout or didn't they get in like a car wreck with an FBI guy or a,
I don't think they got in a shootout. I know that they shot at a helicopter.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, like I feel like he's actually on the Facebook group, Nikki knows everybody. I forget his name. Rhodes, you've had him on your show. Was it Searles? Johnny Searles.
Yeah, Johnny Searles.
Yeah, Searles.
Met his wife at that bank robbery.
Yeah, I was going to say,
teller.
That is so cool. Like, see, they met because of DB Cooper.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
that's something good.
I mean, so wherever he is in hell, he's bringing people together up here, Cooper. I mean, that's the thing about this is like, it's weird. Like, if people hadn't died, it would be like, we're all here, we're all friends and chit-chatting because of DB Cooper, because of this guy had a plan and did something one day, right? But then the sad thing is people died and went to prison. Mm-hmm. McCoy, I mean, I don't think McCoy would have robbed a bank, right? I mean, I think he thought he could get away with this because it was something he had a skill set for. I don't think he would have thought he had a skill set for bank robbery. He wasn't a criminal.
No.
Right? I mean, that's very apparent by his nervousness about it. And that's the thing about, like, if we jump over to Paratrooper of Fortune and we talk about Braden, like, Braden wasn't afraid of anything.
No.
I mean,
nothing. And didn't mind blurring right and wrong.
Yeah. And I think that was it. I was listening to, who was it? Oh yeah, it was Marty and Ross on their most recent thing. They were talking about how Marty was saying how the military, especially special forces, is essentially the closest thing you can come to committing a criminal act. It's like sanctioned criminality. You get to kill people, blow things up, sneak around at night, and like be a misfit essentially, but it's sanctioned. Yeah. It's almost like privateers in like the Elizabethan age were pirates. Like you get to go be a pirate, but you're flying the British flag, you know, like, you know, you get to, and so like, it's a weird thing that you are a criminal in a way. If you really think about it, like you're killing people. I mean,
and getting paid.
And getting paid for it, legally and blowing things up and strangling people and doing all these sort of things like that. And so, that was interesting. They're talking about, I forget the guy's name. Some of you guys may know about it. What was there was a Navy SEAL who was in prison for a long time. Richard, was it Marcinko? Marcinko. Ooh, I forget his name, but there was a Navy SEAL who was kind of like Braden, who, broke into like some nuclear facilities or something and was saying he was actually a patsy, that the government put him up to it to test security and all this other stuff. I forget his name. Yeah, I think it was Richard Marcinko. I wish. I think he's dead now. But anyway, when we go over to the Beeson book, like, so Paratrooper of Fortune, we're talking about Drew's book here, which does have a circular canopy, by the way. Congrats on Drew for putting a proper canopy on there, not a that canopy. Or does, well, I can't tell on Ha cover.
Yeah.
If it's like, what is this on the bottom, by the way? The big boobed woman in front of a judge?
Yeah. You'll learn all about her in the book.
Is that Karen? Is that a Karen?
It might be one of the mini prostitutes in the book.
That was the one in the courthouse that he ran to after he ran out of the courthouse. He went to her house and she took him in.
Yeah, like I like the way you described that in the book. You guys were like, yeah, a courthouse is not like the church in like Guns N' Roses November Rain video. You don't just like the Kill Bill church. You don't just like run out of it and you're out, you know, and roll down a hill. Like it's a courthouse. You have metal detectors.
Right. You might be able to run out of the room.
That's it.
Right.
But not the building.
It was such a bad book.
Yeah. This book though is good.
That one's
fantastic.
But the main thing though about Braden, and I say this a lot when you read Drew's book, is like, you just think about, this needs to be a movie. It needs to be a mini series or something, or like
The Adventures of Ted Braden.
Yeah. Like I almost think about like, because it takes place in the 50s and 60s and stuff, like, or the 70s, I could almost see like Tarantino doing it, because like Tarantino likes these villainous types, right? His characters are always villains, essentially.
Yeah.
Except for, I guess, the bride in Kill Bill is not really a villain, but he likes the bad guys usually. And like Braden would be a perfect Tarantino guy because you could have all these flashbacks to like him being a child soldier in World War II, or, flashing. I guess what I'm saying is like, how like Tarantino likes to do things non-narratively, like he kind of puts things not out of sequence sometimes. Braden would be perfect for like an out of sequence narrative. Yeah. So like you could jump to the 70s or jump to the Congo all of a sudden, and then you jump back to him being in a foxhole in Bastogne in World War II, or Battle of the Bulge, or then he's Cooper on the plane, and then he's robbing a bank, and I mean, and that, or then he's arrested for DUI, pissing down his pants, as we learned recently. Darren, are you aware of that? That that when they arrested him for DUI, he pissed it down his pants. Apparently, is what it says in the police report. It says subject urinated on himself. It's like,
dude liked to drink.
Yep. Yeah, he definitely did. Yeah, but again though, it's his new stuff. We actually got the police report for his arrest, and it is kind of looking like he spent a lot of the 80s in prison actually, for this bank robbery that he did. We thought it was this fish and chips robbery, or not fish and chips. I'm joking about that. The fish truck. We thought that like he had, because he had like stolen, or he had hijacked a truck full of fish or something. And we thought that's what it was for, but apparently it was for a bank robbery. So Ted Braden, hey man, that's something I always talk about. I'm like, this is the DB Cooper heist is a clever bank robbery. That's really all it is. And I often say, if you can't see your suspect like robbing a bank, then he's probably not Cooper. We think about guys like McNally. Like Mac would have robbed a bank. Like if it had occurred to him, if he had the opportunity to rob a bank, Mac would have robbed a bank. And obviously Braden robbed a bank. I could be. Jay says Ryan would do a cameo in the Cooper movie. He can check the guy in at the airport. Yeah, I could be. I could be Dennis Lisney. Well, I'm not that old. Lisney was a badass, by the way. I learned this during my research. Lisney was like 50 years old at the time. Lisney had been a tail gunner on like a B-17 and flew 50 missions in World War II. It's like, whoa. Okay. See, a lot of those guys got out of the Air Corps and went into aviation, just like Captain Scott did. Captain Scott was a pilot in the Air Force. So a lot of these guys, they came back as pilots. You had this whole new generation of pilots who were like ready-made. That's why so many airline pilots were World War II guys, because you had a whole generation of men who you had 200,000 guys who know how to fly planes and can do it in under stressful conditions, like perfect pilots, right? Yeah. And with the boom of commercial aviation, you're going to need pilots. So that's why there were too many pilots. Actually, there were too many pilots, and that's why guys like Catalano were waitlisted. That's what Catalano's issue was, is he got waitlisted. By the way, I believe Marty Andrade is working on something. I don't want to blow his spot up, but I think Ryan is I think Marty is trying to connect a Catalano to the TWA bomber, the unsolved, that guy. I think that I'll show. I hope he doesn't kick my butt, but I'll show up here. He did a Photoshop of the Catalano as that sketch, because that sketch looks like Cooper. I'll just say that's kind of funny, but I don't know if it looks a lot like him, but he just did this for. I guess he did this for fun, but I'll pull it up here for everybody. Where is it? Sorry, this is bad pod for people. Was
Catalano, Nicole, the name that was in Skyjack?
It is. That's the one. Yeah.
There it is. Yeah. So that's he put the sunglasses on Catalano's head. But now Catalano, though, I'll say about this about Catalano. Catalano was definitely ugly enough to be Cooper.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, not many suspects you would say, yeah, that guy's pretty ugly.
Yeah.
But
that one is.
I mean, yeah, Catalano is certainly unattractive. Let's see. Yeah. I mean, not very. His problem, though, I don't see a big lower lip, though. The nose is right. He's got a lot of hair. That's not the problem with Catalano. Is he's older in this photograph. He's got a lot of hair. Although what's weird, though, is if you talk to Alice Hancock, she'll tell you and Pat or anybody, she'll say Cooper had a head full of hair. I mean, she says that. And what's interesting too is, in the 302s, they mentioned that McCoy had less hair than Cooper did. Mm-hmm. So, when they're shown the McCoy photos, especially of him being perp walked, they say, hey, that's not Cooper, because Cooper's got, Cooper had more hair than this guy here, Yeah. So now, but again, though, they did say he had a receding hairline, and Alice Hancock did say Cooper was slightly balding. So I guess she saw the back of his head, unless she, look at that. There's no turkey neck there either. Mm-mm. He has a complete lack of like fat on his neck. He has a huge Adam's apple, but he does not have a turkey neck, for sure. But Catalano is a good one. Yeah, Burnworth is definitely a good match for Cooper. Yeah, what's weird about Burnworth though is that we talk about Don Burnworth as a suspect. We're just jumping around all over the place tonight. But we look at Don Burnworth. We look at the comments though that they said about Don Burnworth. Right? They're showing this photograph, and Tina says she advised that Burnworth was younger looking and was more handsome than the hijacker. Well, I don't know if Burnworth looks handsome there. Mm-hmm. Again, Florence Schaffner, Burnworth is too young looking and too good looking. So we have Flo and Tina saying Burnworth is too good looking to be Cooper. That's, Dave Feudman fights me on that a lot, because I guess William J. Smith is not an ugly guy. So he likes to fight me on that. I'm like, look, man, male passengers, we have Spreckle saying that guy's too good looking to be Cooper. So when you've got male, if attractiveness is a metric, that means he wasn't of average looks. Because if you're just average looking, then they're not going to use, you see what I'm saying? They're not going to use that as a metric. So He was ugly. He was below the curve. And they call him homely. Yeah. Homely is a nice way of saying ugly. Yeah. Geeky. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. No, yeah. He's ugly. People are like, more handsome. How bad looking was Cooper? He wasn't attractive, which is weird because the sketches, he's not hideous in any of the sketches.
The Bing sketch, he's not great looking, but the later
the Hoodlum, he's kind of ugly, I guess.
Yeah, Hoodlum's a little bit ugly too.
Yeah, Rico Suave is not ugly, but
the other one Cary Grant.
Yeah, I know. Well, yeah, so he's not ugly. He looks kind of distinguished looking. Bing looks very alienish looking. But what's interesting is, there are suspects who look like the Bing sketch. People say, well, Bing looks like an alien. I'm like, well, I've seen plenty of suspects who look like the Bing sketch. So clearly, and stay tuned. There's a good suspect coming out soon. Mary says Dracula sketch for the win. Yeah. the Dracula sketch. I don't know. Flo was just terrified of all that, So what do you guys make? We're just jumping around tonight. My video about Flo in her comments, Nicole, what do you think about that video I made about Flo saying those things?
Do you think how far past the skyjacking was it? How many years?
That was published. 17? No. It's talking about the Kofelt stuff.
Oh, okay.
Early 80s, so 10 years maybe.
So I just think maybe she remembered wrong. Do you think? I don't know. A lot of it, like the coffee thing, served him. Yeah,
she says that twice. She says that twice. She says that in both interviews.
But it's not
that's
in both.
No, it's not, and it's in both of those interviews. So that's the only thing that made me go, well, maybe. Unless the problem is though, so I really want to do a whole video on this. Is hi Ed, you're being rude. Ed's in the chat now, but you're being rude. I really want to. I should do a whole video on it, honestly. So there was a study done, and I've mentioned this on my show before, but there was a study done because they knew that 9/11, psychologists knew that 9/11 was going to be like the seminal event for a lot of people's lives. Hopefully, it would not get any worse than that, right? So they did a study where they interviewed like 400 people or something like that, an enormous amount of people, like the week after, and said, hey, we're going to do a long-term study. We're going to keep us track of where you move. If you move and give us your numbers. Yeah. And they said, where were you on 9/11? What were your memories of 9/11? Yada, yada. And they cataloged like 400 people. Then they came back a year later and said, hey, tell us about 9/11. Oh, blah, blah, blah. And then they came back 10 years later. The same, it's like Princeton or somewhere. And they said, okay, tell us about this. Same people had the same thing. Like, basically, the biggest change was from 1 year to 2 year. So within like the first year, by a year later, like half of their stories had changed, like fully half. It was like dramatic. They're like, oh my God, like people, how are their brains misremembering this badly a year later? But they said that 10 years later, the memory was pretty close to the one after a year. So like, it's almost like you're like what you have invented in your head is what gets stuck in your head. You know what I'm saying? Like, so the invention is lasts longer than the truth.
But like, what if, so like, I can remember instances, like I was in a really bad car accident. And when I had to give the report right after, I missed out a lot of things. I was shaken up. Like it was a mess. But if you had asked me like a month later, I had a better memory? Way better memory. Because I had time to think about it.
But are you sure it was better?
Absolutely.
Okay. So, it was better. I mean, because people fill in gaps.
Yeah.
Right.
No, like
that's the problem is people will fill in gaps in their brain. So if you know it was better than that, and like, but with flow, it's like, when I was writing the narrative for my book, and the whole time I was writing it, I was thinking about Darren, because you guys talked about it too, how like the worst part of a D.B. Cooper book is the narrative. And I was like, oh, I'm going to write 100-page narrative just for Darren. And by God, it's about 100 pages. But you can't, but I said, I'm going to write a narrative so damn good and so detailed that like, it's going to be required reading. And I think it is like, it is crazy detailed. Because a lot of these narratives, they're not adding anything to it. I actually add things to it,
Yeah. It'll be 4 parachutes.
Well, the worst thing is in a lot of these narratives, I know now, well, that's not true. Well, that's not true. Well, that didn't happen. Well, he never talked to him. And so that's why it's always so frustrating, which I loved in Marty's book, where it's like, I have to write this part real quick, so I'm just going to be brief. And,
I love that.
He just stuck to what was known, what couldn't be debated, and it was 3 pages long or something.
I think he's like, well, so it's obligatory that I write this.
Yeah, exactly.
So excuse me for a second. I have to say this.
Yeah,
but
perfect.
Now it's
perfect.
Yeah, it's oh, thank you, Black Wingy. Yeah. So for those who don't know, a good bit of my videos, my part 1, part 2, part 3. It's a 5-part series I'm working on. That's me basically reading the narrative of my book somewhat. Am I saying my book will be in the fiction section? No, definitely not.
I'll be the judge of that.
Yeah, I know. But with flow though, like when I'm writing a narrative though, it's like, I have to believe like I'm not going to put in there that Flo served him coffee, because Flo didn't say that. Yeah. 15 minutes after she left his presence. And that's not anywhere. Like she never mentions that. And the fact that she mentions that, or that she says, tells this woman in Salt Lake City that Cooper was wearing makeup. When in the world did that come from? Like, no way. We know and that's even worse, because it's not that we don't have Flo Schaffner saying I did not serve him coffee at any point, but we have her saying he was not wearing makeup. So like that's really, you know,
2 different things.
Didn't think about wearing white gloves or having to go fetch Cooper from the terminal. That's completely made up. It has to be.
Do you think she was reading other ones? Because it sounds like a combination of like Hahnemann and McCoy. Like it just sounds like a bunch of, because Hahnemann wore gloves.
He did wear gloves. Hahnemann did, and McCoy wore gloves. All of them wore gloves except for Cooper. Mac wore gloves. Yes. Somebody's saying, you have to use the most contemporary. Mary, good point though, Mary. Mary says it's odd to her that the Benzedrine is not in the 302s. And that's true. That is, and like I have, but we have Benzedrine like less than a week after it. We have Radicek telling a reporter like 3 days later about the Benzedrine thing. And I've also found an independent Tina interview where she mentions Benzedrine. So Benzedrine is definitely confirmed. Because we were wondering that because I think that's in Tousaw. I think that's in Tousaw as well. Mm-hmm. Somebody says, "What's up with Eric? He has gone mad." I mean, Eric's always mad. All I know is his next suspect will be named Peterson with like PEDERSUN or something. Be his third Peterson. Third time's the charm, Eric. Yeah, Black Wingy says Rat wouldn't make that up. I wonder why it wasn't in the 302s. Yeah, you would think that him having recreational drugs would be something you would mention, because I know that drugs are mentioned. I know that Mac had. I've not seen Mac's 302s yet. Mac is in the process of getting his. I can't wait to see him. Would be great soon. But I know that in Heinemann's, I think he actually ordered. So Heinemann ordered like, forgive me, Flyjack. Don't say I'm the world's biggest liar bastard, as you will say to me all the time. But for misremembering Heinemann things, I bow. Please have mercy on me for misremembering that Heinemann was only missing his upper teeth, not his lower teeth. I thought it was both. My bad. Like, I wasn't trying to because from my point of view, it doesn't matter if he's missing upper teeth or upper and lower teeth. He shouldn't be missing any teeth to be Cooper. Okay. Like, either way, it's bad. It's a bad look. He's like, well, he only was missing his lower teeth or his upper teeth. I'm like, because that makes it better. Okay. But anyway, sorry, Flyjack. I'm not trying to impede on your guy, but Heinemann, though, I think he had a headache or something, and he ordered he said he wanted some sort of medication, and he made the co-pilot eat half of it. He broke it in half and I think he might have ordered 2 different kinds of drugs. He might have ordered some kind of amphetamine type thing. Maybe, but it was like, I'll get an 8,000 page essay about why I'm a wrong bastard from Flyjack soon, but tune into the drop zone, people. But I feel like he had 2 different kinds of pills with him, or it was requested pills. But anyway, pills are a thing in these hijackings. Okay. And so Cooper having Benzedrine, what's interesting about that too, is like Cooper has been considered to be Cooper. And I can me and Jude kind of go back and forth, because me and Jude are both ADHD, and like, we can kind of smell it. Me and Jude are both kind of neurodivergent too. And like, we can smell our own, and like, we can smell that coming off Cooper. Like Cooper, his brain is so he's so back and forth sometimes that Larry Carr thinks he thinks this Cooper was ADHD. Mm-hmm. So Larry Carr thinks this guy had ADHD because he's a know-it-all, but like doesn't know it all. Mm-hmm. And has these, I don't know, but the thing about that though is, it makes you focus though. So like Adderall, which is Benzedrine. Benzedrine was what Adderall is now. So it's literally just the same thing. It's just different maker. So it's basically when we hear Cooper had Benzedrine, anybody listening, Cooper had Adderall. That's all I have to say. It's Cooper had Adderall. That actually like calms people down like myself. Like I can fall asleep on Adderall. It makes you focus. It doesn't make you hyper. And so Cooper was focused, right? He wasn't hyperactive. He had Benzedrine, but he wasn't hyperactive. So if he had taken Benzedrine and he wasn't ADHD, he would be hyperactive. He'd be like, gnawing his teeth, but he wasn't. He was calm. Now, maybe he just hadn't taken the bennies yet, right? I mean, maybe he was going to take them later on when he wasn't. But, somebody made a good point too. I'm speaking of ADHD. I'm bouncing around tonight. I'm wired up. Have 2 of my good friends here. I'm just chatting. Marty made a good point though about smoking that I hadn't thought of yet. I mean, I kind of thought of it, but I hadn't really thought about it. Is that Cooper smokes 7 cigarettes and does not. Cooper takes 7 cigarettes and does not
drink anything
afterwards. Mm-hmm. And does not drink anything. So like, your mouth is going to be nasty and dry if you smoke 7 cigarettes in 2 hours and you don't want to wash it down with something. Like, that is not a fake smoker. Like, no way. Like, anyway, sorry, I'm getting some text from somebody. People are blowing me up. Anyway,
you're famous. Anyway,
so like, I know. People, I'm doing a show. People, come on, leave me alone. Somebody's saying maybe he did take the coffee. Anyway, so let's see. Yeah, Tim says Cooper was bipolar in his opinion. I mean, maybe. I mean, he obviously. I mean, nobody sane is doing these things. So, anyway, leave me alone, people. I'm trying to say this to people. I'm on the show. Anyway.
Yeah, faking smoking is so ridiculous.
No, it's like that and like that's the last bastion of like bastards with terrible suspects. It says, oh, he was fake smoking. You know, like that is like Cooper has to be a smoker. Like, period. I mean,
it would probably be statistically unusual if a man that age did not smoke.
Yeah. And like and here's the weird part about it too, about it being McCoy. Like, why would McCoy do it so differently if it worked so well the previous time? You know, why wouldn't he fake smoke again the second time, right? If it was a second hijacking, fake smoke again. Instead McCoy is eating candy the whole time, apparently. You know, he's like chowing down on candy back there. And something else, another lie in that book, about lies of that book, they mention that Cooper, I think you guys called it out, that Cooper wrote his notes on like a flight map or a flight plan or something. And he didn't, obviously Cooper didn't write anything that was kept by anybody.
Yeah.
Okay? He didn't write anything on the plane. Okay. He made Flo and Tina write down things. Okay. He didn't write anything. But another thing too is like, and they have this whole graphic in the book. They have this graphic of like, okay, in the Cooper flight, the car with the parachutes was parked at a 10 o'clock angle. Well, you know what, people? That wasn't Cooper's request. That was the flight crew. The flight crew. Yeah. We have the radio transcripts. They say, "Hey, Al, will you park at a 10 o'clock off our cockpit so we can see you?" Because they wanted to see Tina, the exchange for themselves, just to see, because they're curious. So that is not a McCoy Cooper thing. I mean, so that's not something, you know. Yeah, that's not a thing.
It's not evidence at all that they're the same person.
No,
if I robbed a bank and was like, "Hey, I want the getaway car parked on the side of this bank on the east side," and then Ryan robs a bank and he was like, "I want the getaway car parked on the east side." It's not like we were communicating. It's not like it was the same thing. It's where you're parking a car around this thing. It's so ridiculous to use that as obviously they were the same people. The fuel trucks are in roughly the same position. Can you believe it?
Yeah, that's just one of those lies. And
but they lied about everything.
Yeah, they lied about a lot.
I mean,
lied about a lot, and it's a good thing that book, you know, it's a good thing that book isn't more prevalent. You know, it's a good thing that book is not only has 300 copies. But the problem is, you know, Greider, you know, tosses it around as if it's like the Bible, and it's like, dude, it's wrong.
Where'd you get that number from? 300 copies.
I thought that came from you, maybe.
I'm real curious. How many copies of that book were printed?
I thought I heard maybe I thought it was used at 300, or maybe it's in a book.
Because if that's true, then damn, that book's rare.
Yeah, I know. No, somebody, I swear that number sticks in my head for some reason. 300. Like, I don't know why I think that. I mean, that could be. Somebody should like ask ChatGPT how many copies of the Real McCoy were made.
I'm partial to Grok myself.
Okay, well, try Grok. How many copies?
I know. I feel bad that I bought Ha Ha Ha. I would have rather had the Real McCoy.
Yeah. Anyway, but yeah, no. Yeah. The Real McCoy would have been a lot better than Ha Ha Ha. But so, I will transition though into this will get me some somebody needs to, I mean, I'll be careful here not to piss off some people, but moving to the Gunther thing, we're talking about like, just because to my coincidences about robbing the bank, Darren's like, and just because the car is just because the car is here, whatever. I'm thinking about in Gunther, like the Elsinore thing. Like there was this idea that like in Gunther, there's this Elsinore connection. And it's like, no, it's not though. Like he goes to an air show.
Yeah.
He goes Cotton going to an air show and like, having this interaction where he goes up in the plane and he's going to jump out the bottom of the plane and all this other stuff. Like that is in no, but the only similarity between that and Elsinore is like, it involves some skydiving stuff, but like parachutes. But as Jude points out, like he has a thing in his book where Cooper has to learn how to skydive to free fall. Like that's a part of it. Like to tell a Cooper story of the narrative fictionally, you have to get him to learn some skydiving skills somehow. Like just if you're telling a fake story even. And like, I guess the problem with Gunther is like a lot of problems with Gunther. He gets a lot of things wrong. Obviously he has Captain Scott going back there and talking to Cooper, which is, I think he has Cooper in 15C or something. I think it's in row 15. There's that. And speaking of which, I learned recently that the misnomer about 18C, like for a long time, Darren, y'all may have seen this. There's news articles, AP articles that say Cooper said an 18C. I went on newspapers.com and I was like, where the hell did this start? And I'm like, okay, because I knew it's in Norjack. In Norjack, they get it wrong. He says 18C, the Himmelsbach book, and sure enough, there is no Cooper 18C before like 1986. So like that all came from Norjack. And hey, I mean, why wouldn't you believe Himmelsbach's book? You know,
he was the Portland
the guy
agent.
who wrote, yeah, right. So that's where it comes from. But the Gunther thing, I don't know where he comes up with 15. But anyway, but the problem with Gunther is that when people rely on Gunther, and smart people, you know, Dave's smart. Marty is obviously smart. The problem with it though is like that they were chasing down people who had names similar to Dan LeClaire. And Gunther literally says, I am making this name up. I am inventing a name. This is Huck Finn, right? So like, I mean, if you thought Huck Finn was based on a real person, like, and he's like, oh, that, and Tom saw, and Twain said, I am making this name up. I'm not going to go try to find Huck Finn's. Right. Like, and so like, the thing is, if he changes, if Gunther changes, if let's just say it's true, this is wrap your head around this is difficult, but like, if you think that Gunther could lead us to the truth, like the problem is if he was being told the truth, he's going to change enough things to where you can't find out. Like the thing about like Clara being a divorced 35-year-old librarian or whatever, like in Woodland or wherever that area, like somebody would know who that is. Like a lot of people would know who that is. Yeah. You know?
I just don't know what is from, well, I did have someone in the Vortex send me a copy of Gunther's notes. They had pictures of them. So they did message them to me. So I did read them and nothing in them had anything to do with Clara at the cabin finding him in the shed. So I wonder if that part was made up completely.
Yeah, I mean, the whole thing is, I like the idea that you guys had that maybe that, I mean, it's kind of, but yeah, like the idea that maybe Clara was hoaxed herself by a con man. I had never thought of that angle.
I hadn't either. That was Nicole's angle on it.
Yeah. And that's actually like, oh, okay. You know, now, of course, the Clara character in the book meets him in like in the shed. Right. So like, I mean, unless she met a guy, unless she met the con man in her shed, that part is definitely going to be made up. But maybe the real story was boring.
Yeah.
And maybe she's like, actually, I met him, maybe you could spice this up a little bit, and maybe Gunther did say, oh, I can have a better story. So maybe, and like, I'm willing to believe that maybe Clara was somebody who was hoaxed herself. Maybe her belief was earnest that all these things.
Yeah.
And maybe that's why the details are wrong, because her bullshitting husband got things wrong.
Mm-hmm. Just told her.
And then she has to remember that the lies and then retell them to somebody else who's going to reprint them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, right.
So
and these lies are
going to be a fourth-hand story by the time it gets to Max Gunther. That's not true.
And that's why so many things are wrong. And I like that theory a lot, that maybe, because I mean, the fact that Gunther contacted the FBI, as I've said, like I really thought for the longest time that this was a work. The whole thing was a work. This is performance art. I mean, which is, I thought maybe he just made everything up. He was Clara, yada, yada, yada. It's not insane to think that. Like, I think Truman Capote wrote a book. One of Capote's books is like that, where it's like performance art. Or it's like the Blair Witch Project, right? It's like found footage. It's like, oh, well, but it's all fake, but like you're pretending that it was real. And then you're kind of blurring these lines. But the fact, and my belief in that was the fact that Gunther never showed up in the FBI files. Because I'm like, okay, it's one thing to hoax Himmelsbach, who's a retired agent. You can't get in trouble for that. But you can't hoax the FBI, because that's a crime. And then they'll throw you in prison for that. So I was like, okay, well, the fact that it's not in the FBI files tells me that maybe Gunther made it up. But then, lo and behold, last year we see a Gunther in 302s. Gunther saying, hey, guys, this woman is contacting me saying that her deceased husband was Cooper. Are you guys still investigating this? Do you want to talk to me about it? Blah, blah, blah. And there's no return correspondence, which kind of sucks. Although I wonder if they gave him they may have given, it may be a subject file. We may get the Gunther file later on. Because that was solely a Seattle office thing. So like the files that we have before the subject files, like we're on subject file in the vault, like 150 right now or something like that. And, or no. We're in the we're in the 200s. No, we might be in 300s. I think we're almost at 300 now, subject files. But all the files before that were correspondences incoming and outgoing from Seattle. That's what. So I mean, all 30,000 files were like files they sent back and forth. And so internal documents we haven't seen yet for certain things. So obviously that was an incoming file. Gunther contacting them. So that was early on. But their responses and stuff would have been private Seattle office stuff, which would be which if they gave it a subject file, which they probably gave that a subject file. A guy saying, "Hey, I'm an author and I'm being that probably would have earned a sub file, I would think." Yeah. So there probably is a Gunther sub file, and that's going to be Elizabeth. There are 1,062 subject files. The last one is L.D. Cooper, and second to last is Kenny Christensen. It is funny that like Barb did not warrant a subject file. Gossip did not warrant a subject file, but Kenny did.
Yeah. Interesting.
Will all the internals be available eventually? Yes. Yes, they will be. All right. And so
over how many years though? How many more years do we have?
Oh my God. I don't know. Zayd isn't sure. I think that they told Zayd maybe like 75,000 to 85,000. And we're almost to 50,000 now. So I would expect maybe like 2029, 2030 is when we'll have all of them.
A long time.
Yeah. Not that long. 2025?
Yeah, I know.
2029?
About 5 years from now.
Yeah, 5 years.
4 or 5 years. Maybe. Yeah, I guess so. We've got about 50,000 and most are worthless. But okay. So, other books though. So Tousaw. Talk about Tousaw real quick. You guys liked the Tousaw book. Nicole, was this your first time reading it?
No.
Oh, you'd already read it. Okay. Yeah. Okay. It's good. Because it's kind of like just the facts, Jack.
Yeah. And I liked that. Yeah. There wasn't a whole lot of extra fluff.
There's no suspect book. And, he did talk to the people. I mean, like that's one thing that we have on him is Radacek. I mean, Radacek, Tina. I mean, he's the only author who got Tina so far. I'm trying, but trying, but I'll get there. But like Tousaw's the only guy who's got Tina so far, and so that is why the things in the book I tend to believe. Like that's the only nonfiction book on Cooper that I will use as a primary source, and like for my narrative, because like it's close enough to the hijacking to where, it was only 10 years earlier or whatever, right? So I mean, it's close enough to the hijacking that like, and also like if he had written something wrong, they could have called him out on it and said, "Oh, he's full of shit," whatever. Like this is not true, I mean, I would never want to do that. I would not want to misprint some. I mean, if I talked to Tina tomorrow and Tina said, "Yeah, he had a drag bag," and I wrote, "Oh, he had it tied around his back or something."
Yeah.
I mean, what I'm saying? She could be like, "That's wrong. I didn't tell him that," So like, I don't think Tousaw was lying. I think that's why I believe the things he says. He gets a few things wrong, and I can tell where he's filling the gaps in. For example, Cooper having 2 drinks and it being, I think, bourbon and water, I think, that comes from a 1981 AP article. So the 10-year anniversary AP article that was reprinted in like every paper in America says loafers. That's where loafers comes from. Literally the first time you'll see the word loafers mentioned in the vortex. You will not find loafers before 1981. If you go to newspapers.com, look up DB Cooper. It's in this article, became repeated. Loafers is in there. And crap, what was I just saying?
2 drinks.
Yeah.
2 drinks, yes. The 2 drinks is in there too. So, and I feel like Tousaw was like, "Oh shit, I can't call Flo back and ask her. I'll rely on this article that says this." And so I feel like you can kind of see where he's piecing things together, because I don't think that. I mean,
I like the idea of the double. That was a great idea at the double.
Yeah, I mean, somebody mentioned the double, and like I feel like, I don't know the exact change. I feel like the stewardess we met said that it was $1 a drink in the 70s. That was like the thing. It was like $1 a drink, and so I don't know how much change I have Flo getting $19 in change to Cooper, because I have him only paying for 1 drink. But somewhere else I've seen $18. So if it was $18, then it might have been a double. But
also it doesn't really matter.
No. Who cares? I mean, it doesn't. But I'm just like, I don't know. You're right. It doesn't matter. But so like, I guess another thing about Tousaw that was good too is the Brian Ingram stuff, right? He was highly involved with the Ingrams.
Yeah.
And so his Tina Bar stuff is good. Like a lot of things that, like, for example, like, it might be in Tousaw where they have like the money being put in like a hot dog bun wrapper or something. Maybe like that's a small detail.
I don't remember that.
Maybe
one.
I don't know. But
I don't remember. You're making that up.
Yeah, I know. Or maybe, I'm not sure. But Tousaw, though, what's weird about Tousaw is, how did he think Cooper ended up in the river? Right? Like, that's what I wonder.
I think it was just, he hasn't been found, so he must have just landed here. Because there isn't like a lot of, here's my evidence for it. It's just mostly like, I think he must have landed further south and probably directly into the Columbia.
Yeah, I guess he does talk to Soderlund, and Soderlund does say that it's possible that the drop zone went all the way to the Columbia. I think he does say that. So, but I don't know. And
and you're trying to link the Tina Bar money to the hijacking at the same time. So the only thing that really makes sense is maybe he landed right in the Columbia.
Bad luck on his part to be a no pull and to land in the Columbia, and just, I like that Andrade was talking about on Ross's show that like, or no, you guys maybe were talking about, because we talked about Andrade's book, that, that like basically he found like the only instances of no pulls, and like they really, like, people don't realize this, but like the Air Force is the British and the American, they did like really, really, really extensive research like during the war of cataloging everything. I mean, they would have, if you watch that show, Masters of the Air, you would see them having these debriefing sessions where they're like, okay, what happened? And they're like, yeah. And all of them are like, yeah, the bomber, Windy City exploded, whatever. Somebody's at my door. I'll be right back.
It's just me and you, Nicole.
It's just me and you. It's like old times.
Now we can talk smack about Ryan.
Right. How's your book coming? What number are you on now?
I just finished 13 today. I got a good head start, and then I slacked a little bit. The last book I read was F It, I'll Start Tomorrow by Action Bronson.
Yeah. Okay.
Really good. I highly recommend it. It's very funny. Sort of about his weight loss journey, because he became a pretty big boy there for a while.
Okay. I think I'm still on 13 because I did the Rudolph Diesel one that we were talking about.
How was that book?
Okay, it was really good. I don't want to give it away because there's a thing that I love in life.
Yeah, don't give it away.
Methods.
I'm going to read that book.
Read it. I think
you
would enjoy it because there's a lot of engine talk that I was kind of like, but I think you would really enjoy it even more than I did. Yeah, you've got to read it. It's
engine.
The Mysterious Case of Rudolph Diesel. We were just talking about what books we've been reading, and we had been talking about that one, and I just finished it.
Funny, Mary says Flyjack knocking on Ryan's door. Boxing match. I know, but I don't remember what was I ranting about. What was I ranting about? I was trying to think. Somebody remind me what I was ranting about.
The Tousaw.
Oh,
landing in the Columbia.
Yeah, like
no polls and the
Marty Andrade. Yeah, the military guys. So they did extensive debriefings, like, hey, what happened when this plane got shot down? They're like, oh yeah, so we all saw a Messerschmitt, came down and took out the cockpit pilot. We saw the pilot get killed and then the plane crashed, whatever. And all this stuff was really, really extensively researched. And when they found bodies, they researched, they were like, okay. And Andrade said that like literally something like 80,000 airmen bailed out of planes in World War II, Allied airmen. And the only instances ever recorded of no pulls were guys who were already wounded or dead. Like guys who were dead and fell out of the plane, right? And their bodies just fell out of it, because they're all wearing their parachutes. So like if you're dead and you fall out of the plane when it's crashing, when the plane breaks in half, everybody's going to go flying if they're already dead. So like these were guys who were already dead. So like if you're alive, you're going to pull it. And my favorite thing is like, what was it? You guys were talking about Cassie's idiotic statement about.
I think Darren was talking about that, about the trench coat.
His trench coat getting in the way of the parachute harness.
How?
I don't know. The only way that makes sense is if he put his parachute on and then put his trench coat over that, which negates the parachute altogether.
Yeah, I mean, like he's wearing. Yeah, like what are we doing? He puts it on over. Like that ripcord looks really hard to find there, doesn't it? On that MB6 pack, that ripcord looks really difficult. Like what do you? Cassie knows better.
Oh yeah,
I swear he just said shit just to say shit. Sometimes that's what Larry Carr says.
Yeah. It seems like it. The more books we read.
He loved talking to the media, and he loved being inconsistent.
God,
which is a great combo.
But he's not inconsistent with the FBI, though. That is one thing that, like, I remember. When I got the files, I did a search for Cassie. I was like, I'm gonna find every Cassie file there is because I want to see this bastard lying to the FBI. Nope. I mean, the man is consistent. Like when he's talking to the FBI, he never says anything other than MB6, no D rings, no cape wells, basic that thing right there. Now he tells Larry Carr something different. I'll say that. So, but in the actual files, like we don't have Larry documenting anything he said, that Cassie said to him. Okay, but. From Cassie in the 80s and 70s, he's consistent. He's never, that I found him being, saying something wrong. What's funny is even after he starts lying to the media, it's like the first time he really starts lying to the media is in 76. There's like a 5-year anniversary article. And he's talking about how the parachute is was returned to him from the plane. and it's like a sacred object in his house now as a prized possession. It's like, what? Like, no, man, these weren't your parachutes. None of them were. Well, one of them would have been. Well, the dummy chute was his for sure, and he got compensated for it. In fact, that's in Tousaw. Is both. I think they were paid like $50 or something like that, $50 or $40. Right. Like what was it? Like Lynn Emmerich got like $40 or something, and Cossey got like $50, whatever. Because the dummy chute was Cossey's, and the big chute, the reserve that Cooper cut up would have been owned by Emmerich and the skydiving center. And of course Hayden, I guess I'm not seeing. Well, see, Hayden would have been paid. I guess it's not in the FBI files because Hayden would have been paid privately by Northwest. Okay, and that's why that stuff's not in the FBI. We don't have in the FBI files them being compensated. That's not anywhere because it wasn't the FBI paying them. It would have been Northwest privately reimbursing them. Because remember, people, this was a private transaction between a angry customer and an airline, essentially. Like that is basically, that was the gist of it. Is they said, look, we want you to stand down, and that was the argument by Royal Globe. And legally, Royal Globe said we don't have to pay this back, or Royal Globe was saying we don't have to pay out. So basically, what happened was, for those who are wondering, is the bank that they used in Seattle was Seafirst Bank, Northwest Airlines. They called the airport branch first. They go, hey, do you guys have $200,000 in cash on you? And they said, no, we don't. Downtown branch does. Okay, call downtown branch. Downtown branch says, oh yeah, we got this ransom pack thing. We'll blah, blah, blah. Okay. They sign a receipt. Okay. And they're like, look, tomorrow, they say, tomorrow, or no, I think they say like, not that because the banks will be closed. Then they say that like on the 25th or whatever, or the 26th, we will wire transfer $200,000 from our corporate bank to reimburse you guys, the bank. So they do that. Right. And then they file the claim with the insurance. So Northwest Airlines is out $200,000. Okay. So they are insured. And so Royal Globe's like, no, we're not paying that. You guys, because their argument was you guys gave Cooper that money willingly. Like and like extortion is not, basically they were saying that extortion was not part of the catch-all clause because like you weren't actually, because you willingly did it. You willingly gave it to them. And of course their lawyers are like, what are you talking about? Like the guy had a bomb. Like we didn't willingly do shit. Like, I mean, and the Supreme Court of Minnesota was like, yeah, extortion, counts as, an unforeseen circumstance. And, they weren't compliant. Because, kind of a clever argument, though, for Royal Globe saying, hey, man, they consented to it. They're the ones who said this was just a private transaction. They told the FBI to stand down. There's just an angry customer. It's like, okay. Yeah. But that's that. So,
insurance company.
I know.
Never wanting to pay.
The other stuff, some other books we talk about is obviously the Bible. Bruce, wait, did y'all talk about Bruce's book?
No, we did not read Bruce's book.
Well, and I must be missing something.
I chose not to.
You didn't have the man in 18E up there.
I have that. I think, I've got man 18E.
Oh, okay.
But Bruce's book I didn't want to do because it's been discussed so much. Everyone has that book. And also it's more of an encyclopedia than a story. It's not about one person. It's not one narrative. It's
a collection of essays.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And that's kind of where my book, when I was writing it, I was like, I don't want this to be a collection of essays. And like, I had to write a narrative in it. And it does have not just the narrative of like the hijacking, but like it has to have a theme. And the theme is the FBI, right? That their journey, So it has to it's got to have a coherent, because, and see, Edward's book is the same way too. It's a collection of essays. They don't really feel, together. So I must be missing something because I got Tousaw, Skyjack, Gunther, Marty's book, Paratrooper Fortune, Cooper, or Real McCoy, Into the Blast, and the Man in 18E.
10 books.
Y'all did 1, 2.
Gunther's book.
5, 6, 7, 8, 9. No, I've got Gunther.
Okay, Norjack into the blast.
Norjack. I'm missing Norjack. That's what I was missing. Norjack. Okay. Norjack. I'm glad that you guys mentioned the very. It's very disarming. The what do you call it? The shifts in perspective, or
Yeah.
What would you call that?
First person, third person?
Yeah.
Yeah, like it's like, okay, then I was doing this. Then Agent Himmelsbach, walked into the airport. Like, wait a second, who's telling the story? Like it never like explains the jump between third person and first person. It's never like, hi, my name is Thomas Worcester,
right.
or whatever. I am going to tell, like the whole thing should have just been in his voice.
It should have been in his voice.
He had a ghostwriter too, right? Was he the one?
Yeah, something like Thomas
Worcester.
Worcester. Yeah. And so we actually have his, when we were at Gunther's, or when we were at Himmelsbach's grandson's house, he let us go through Ralph's files. And there's a big box full of correspondence between where this author would send Himmelsbach a chapter, and Himmelsbach would write all over it and like make changes and then send it back. So we have all these copies of Himmelsbach making annotations to this book, which is pretty cool to see the actual like the back and forth where I don't know who this guy was, but he pisses me off because like Norjack should be a good book, and it is a good book, but I would give it 3 parachutes just because. Well, like the tone shift, right?
I don't think I gave it 4 parachutes.
Yeah, I don't know what you guys gave it, but like I wouldn't give it 4 parachutes because, well, and also too, like he never points out that this wasn't his case. No. I don't think. Like,
no, he's the lead agent in the Portland office.
Which you assume,
it says, I hope you know this case is going to be yours now in the book. Right.
And like, he's not ever describing the fact that Seattle's like, hey man, piss off.
Right.
Like, this is our case, or like the thing about Tina Barr, like never does he mention that, like, I think I asked Detler that on stage. I was like, did the Seattle office learn about Tina Barr on TV? And he was like, yes. That like, that like Portland was never like, hey, we have Cooper's serial numbers. I know this is your case, but we're going to cross state lines into your state. I asked him, I said, Himmelsbach was retiring in 2 weeks. Do you think that like, he didn't give a crap anymore? I mean, because what are they going to do? Fire him? He's going to breach some protocol on this old cold case. And he told the guys, go grab your rakes and shovels from home and we'll convene on the beach and tear it to shit before the archaeologists get a hold of it. So that's why the shards come from. That's why the shards are buried deeper than they should be. Because they were just like digging with shovels and like digging a hole in your backyard, just like throwing stuff, over your shoulders. And Palmer's like, oh my God, what have you guys done? Like, you've contaminated it. But they didn't find a damn thing. I mean, I think they really expected to find, I understand but they broke protocol. Like that wasn't their jurisdiction. They were in Washington state. They crossed state lines to go do this.
Well, what a better way to go out than to be the one that solved the case, to be the one that found Cooper's body on the shore of Tina Barr.
Yeah. That really is, that's what I think. I think that's what he did. I think on purpose he did that.
Yeah.
He was wanting glory one last time.
What are they going to do? Fire him?
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. He's put in all these years and everything, but no, I think that my problem with that book, Norjack is a very valuable resource though. I do quote it a lot in my book because look, it's the only book written by an agent. So, it's not total lies. And a lot of the stuff he's talked about is in the 302. So like it talks about Almond Degra, who was this mad scientist, who was the guy who was like, hey, I have a device that I can my magic wand, and he gives him like his daughter's flashlight. Yeah. And it's like, I never saw the flashlight again, Yeah. Because the guy was like, I'm going to take this home with me. And what's funny is like Almond Degra shows up. I think I actually might pull it up for people. I think I've got that in my in my files here, I think this is it. I think this is Almond Degra showed up a bunch of times in the Cooper case. He was like I feel like this guy was like a Cooperite who like was trying to he was like he's in like 3 different times. Shows up like with some invention.
Yeah.
I think it's him again. Yeah. On December 15th, 1971, Almond Degra, Bakota, Washington, appeared at the Olympic Resident Agency to state that he had a device by which he could locate the money involved in this case. Mr. Degra is obviously a mental case, and in spite of offering to demonstrate his divining device, which consisted of an Alka-Seltzer bottle attached to a chain, he was ushered out of the office. So they didn't even let him demonstrate.
They could have found that money.
No.
There you go.
Anyway, that's Almond Degra, his divining rod, and then of course he had his thing that Himmelsbach. So what's interesting is like Olympia, and then he shows up in Portland to try to swindle Himmelsbach. So he's at the Olympia. Olympia, where is Olympia? It's like east of Portland or Seattle, isn't it?
No, it's right along I-5. It's just south, maybe 20, 30 miles south of Tacoma.
Is it? Okay.
Yeah.
I didn't know it was on the I-5. Okay. Wait, no, I think that's right, because Bruce lives near Olympia now, I think. Doesn't he?
I'm not sure about that.
Yeah.
Somebody knows. No, Bruce lives in like a retirement community in, somebody's asking, Ryan Cossey went from believing D.B. Cooper made it to being a no pull. And it was an FBI shill. No, because the FBI never said Cooper was a no pull until Larry Carr came along.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, even Himmelsbach was like, well, he probably died, but Himmelsbach says 50-50.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, I don't know, maybe. But
end,
no, no pull is not a thing until Larry Carr comes along. Yeah, Beeson says that Bruce lives in Olympia now. But yeah, there's that. So let's see what other books. Gunther, the Gunther book, Paratrooper of Fortune, Skyjack. Okay, Skyjack's probably the best read.
Yeah,
wouldn't you say?
Yeah.
I mean, he's a I can try to be an author, but like Jeffrey Gray is a real author. He's a writer. So I think Skyjack's probably the best book. And Skyjack, now that we have the FBI files, we could see a lot of what Gray saw.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, these names like Catalano showing up.
Yeah, I love that he was looking at these files, unredacted, seeing those names, and then just wrote the names down and just straight up printed them in the book.
Yeah, and like
names that we wouldn't know for a decade.
Yeah.
Well, I have a new task now because like there's a name like that I don't know. So like second to Jason Langseth, there's a guy out of the LA office. They tested his hair against Coopers even. And I do not know this guy's name. I'm gonna run through those names in the book and see if one of those and like do some research on those people and see if one of them is out of LA because that might be the guy.
Remember the names.
He's at a bunch. There's like 50 names in there. He does.
Yeah, these are what my books look like.
Oh, nice. No, I mean he goes through the names like twice.
Maybe more than that because it's in these sections where it's like, and then in this file, I read about all these people. Yeah,
they're kind of like non sequiturs. He's just kind of going through them.
Yeah,
but I may do that. I may go see which names I don't recognize and see if any of them fit that redaction. Because like Catalano was a name we didn't know, and we wanted to know who the Egg Harbor suspect was forever. And sure enough, he was in this book all along
the whole time.
And could be the TWA bomber.
Yeah,
that is who he worked for.
Great idea.
That is who he worked for.
Yeah, and
they did not like him. How bad are you? What shitty employee are you when your own bosses turn you in for a hijacking? And they didn't fire him. He was still an employee. They were like, we have an employee who's kind of a douchebag.
Yeah.
We call him a rebel, right? Catalano's the rebel. And maybe he's your guy. They're like, geez, man, you didn't fire him. He still works for us. He's a good employee. He's just a bad guy. Yeah. We just don't like him.
Not easy to get along with.
No, he's just a punk, And then I think he tried to do, in the late 70s, Catalano shows up at a stockholders meeting I feel like he holds them hostage or something, like not hostage. Like he does like a filibuster at like a stockholders meeting or something. And he got all the papers for it. So he was kind of always messing around with things, Okay. Drew says that Cassie says that the jump would be survivable in the In Search of episode. I mean, Cassie again, I don't know about Cassie. I'm sad that he's not around, obviously, because I would love to hear I'd love to be able to talk to him to call him out on his lies with the files. Earl, don't bullshit me.
Oh, and he would have done every show and everything.
Oh my God. He loved the attention.
Of course. Yeah.
Yeah.
Now it's Earl, Flyjack thinks you made this up. Well, no, I didn't, I mean, it would be helpful. And Norman Hayden's dead now too, which is sad because at least Bruce did get to talk to him. So that was good.
Yeah.
And that's where Bruce, talking about books, Bruce's book is so good because Bruce did not have the FBI files. And a lot of people talk about how some people are saying my book is going to be like the New Testament and Bruce's will be the Old Testament because I'm using the files and he's using manpower. Bruce got the story from the people a lot of times and not always correct information because of course with memory we get wrong information. I mean, Earl Cassie may have present
it that way. He just presents it as I talked to this person. And this is what they said.
This. Yeah, right. He's not presenting as fact. Yeah, and as a good journalist should do. That was my problem with Jen Kircher or whatever her name is, who wrote the McCoy stuff for Cowboy State Daily. I was really upset about that. She was very sweet, but me and Larry Carr spent 3 hours talking to her, explaining to her exactly what she did wrong. We're like, look, you are presenting this as without rebuttal. You're like, okay. She's like, no, I wasn't. I'm like, look, you did. You're not saying Grider says that this happened. You write it as Cooper had a parachute that had D-rings and it's like, no, that's not right. You need to say Grider says this, and then she still she still didn't want to believe it. And it was really sad because I felt like she could have really done a cool journalistic thing to say, look, I was snookered by these people. But now I spoke to the FBI agents and I've seen the real files now. This guy's a con man. And I got conned because I didn't know better.
I think she was paid by a publicist. So you can't go back on that. You have to keep that narrative.
Well, she kept it.
Yeah. That's why I think she was paid by a publicist to write that story with this narrative in mind.
Yeah. Because in that third part, she had Larry Carr on. Okay, and I'm a nobody, but I had the FBI files I sent her. So she had the FBI files and she had Larry Carr, and she's putting Larry Carr on the same pedestal as Lars Larson, the radio host, his opinions. Yeah. And it's well, no.
The Lars Larson angle was so interesting.
What does he have to do with this? Why?
Less than me, even.
I know. Why
he's just a radio host that talks about everything. At least I focus just on this.
Yeah, why does his opinion matter at all?
Yeah, and I'm a Portland guy, and I never thought of Lars Larson as a DB Cooper person, ever.
No, and she's using him to rebut Larry Carr's statements in his article. It's what are you doing, Jen? I think maybe you're right. Maybe a publicist paid because that whole thing. We were and she was totally nice to us, and she was very willing to have documents. And she was like, are you sure that they have McCoy buying gas the morning after the hijacking in Provo? Yes. I'm like, here are the receipts from the FBI files of him buying gas the morning after the hijacking, i.e. there's no way he came all the way back that soon. Literally an impossibility. No, she didn't put that in her article or anything. It's come on, and that, like I said, she had a real cool chance to be that'd have been a cooler story. I was snookered and then I saw the truth. You
can't say that.
You're right.
Because she's on the take.
I guess. Which is, I don't want to disparage her by saying that, but maybe I don't know. I didn't get it. I don't know why.
That's what I think. Unless you can prove otherwise, then why are you a journalist?
Yeah,
it doesn't make sense at all. Either do your work or You're on the take.
I mean, we gave her irrefutable proof that like what Grider said is wrong about the parachute, and she's still on the McCoy angle. It's like, nobody. This is it. Is like nobody. You may be right, Darren, because no one who does not have an enormous agenda sees the McCoy evidence and goes, "Oh yeah, I think it's still McCoy." Nobody who's being honest.
No
one with any intellectual, like, with a modicum of intellect, who has no stake in the game, is going to still be a McCoy person after they see the McCoy evidence. None. Mary John says it's almost like the Newsweek hoax. I mean, yeah. Matt says, what vector did they fly after Portland? They flew V-23 all the way down to Sacramento. And then they dog-legged at Sacramento over to Reno on a different vector that went through the mountains because they had to go over the Sierra Nevadas to get to Reno. That whole time. What's crazy if you think about that is that they sat in that plane. I guess that it's almost like, I think about like truck drivers. They're like, oh, well, flying or like driving 10 hours a day ain't nothing to me. Like I think about like, after they took off from Seattle, they still had 3 hours to sit in that airplane. Mm-hmm. But I guess if that's their career, they're used to sitting in airplanes. So maybe like it wasn't that big of a deal. Yeah. Because I'm thinking like, must have sucked. Although I guess it was an unusual 3 hours because they were cold.
Yeah.
They were flying low and the back is open. So they're freezing. And like, Nicole, you're a female, so maybe you can tell me this.
Yeah. Okay.
Like,
tell me.
I have a theory. So we know that Tina wore her hair in a ponytail. Okay, so Tina, all the pictures of her as a stewardess, she's wearing her hair in a ponytail. It has a bow. Okay, it's just what her look looked like. But when we see her getting off the plane, her hair is down. And like I was thinking, would that warm you up a little bit to pull your hair down out of the ponytail if you were cold?
It can, but that's never been a reason I've put my hair down ever. Okay, I've put my hair down to just kind of, if I'm stressed out, just to kind of take that pressure off of the post. Just let it. Like I just need a break. Let me just take my hair down a second, just to have a break, but never to be warm. Obviously, I've put it up to cool off, but never to been like I'm cold.
Be
I'm
warm.
Put my hair down. Yeah, no.
And she had a thick. I mean, she had a big jacket. Yes, we know Dan Grider says it's McCoy.
I've actually been working on a mini Tina. I have.
Really?
He's not perfect. Her hair's wrong. But I have been working on a mini Tina.
Oh, yay!
Her hair is wrong. I can't get her. Her hair is too short.
You got to get a ponytail. I know. You got to.
Yeah, I've got to.
We got to find a better doll then.
Well, so she's smaller than your average Barbie. So her outfit, she's actually a stewardess, like Barbie doll from like a Denmark airline or something. But yeah, so I've been working on her. She's got her own little mini bag.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's a tiny one.
But it is.
I'm excited.
But I'm working.
How about doing an interview How about doing an interview with Dan Grider? Been there or done that. Will, maybe you should check it out.
Or don't.
Well,
don't give him any more views.
He should not. No, he should not have done that with me. That was his mistake. Yeah. He poked the bear and shouldn't have poked a bear. That was his mistake.
I had Grider on my show and let him present his case in the best light possible. I don't believe he would ever do my show again. But...
Oh no, he won't do mine either. I mean, but no, Dan lied. I mean, he told me he was going to send me a copy. I said, don't edit this interview. I'll do it if you don't edit it. I said, I want a copy of it when we're done so I can put it on my channel. And literally, I almost want to pull up the Facebook. I may do that right now. Screw it. I want to see that Facebook article. Grider, that douche, like I want to find this. I'll read it because that pissed me off so bad. Grider, let me find that dude. Grider. I want to find what he said to me because he said, I have to go way back, but like when I asked for it, I asked for the when I asked for the let's see, when oh man, sorry folks, this is a bad pod. When would that have been? Let's see, what was the?
I think it's the only Grider one I've actually watched. So you were right. People would probably watch more of them if you narrated them a little and proved what was wrong.
Yeah. I'm just trying to find where I talked to Grider about all this because I remember like messaging him and being like, "Hey man, where you know, I remember being like, "Hey, here we go." Let's see. Let's see. I'm sorry, folks. This is again bad pod.
Terrible. This would never happen on my show.
I know. I'm just.
Although my show's not live, so it does happen, and then we clean it up.
Right. We have time.
Let's see. Let's see. Okay. I can't find where it is. Damn. Okay. But I asked him, I kept saying like, I was like, "Hey, you know, will you send me the video?" And he was like, "No, you're a sucker. Ha ha." I was like, "What?" Like I just got done with this. Literally just got done with this interview with him where we were cordial enough. I was like, "Hey, okay, hey man, we go ahead and send me that thing." He goes, "Ha ha, you look so defeated." "No, I'm not sending it to you." I was like, "Okay, so you're lying? You lied to me." He's like, "Oh, you should have recorded." You know, it was just like,
yeah,
I don't know. Yeah, this is this is the Grider.
Do that.
Yeah, this is the same Grider. Yes. Do I think that Dan Grider knows that McCoy wasn't Cooper, but it became his suspect for him to continue to milk for financial gain? No, he believes.
I'm with you on that 100%. He believes.
Yeah, he believes. I don't think that. I still don't want to. I don't want to say anything about the parachute, but like, I don't trust the parachute.
Fake. He made the parachute up, but he believes it was McCoy. He's trying to prove his own theory. He flew through Denver a while back and was like, "Hey, I want to meet up with you and talk to you." And he was like so excited and so giddy. And he's like, "You're not going to believe it. It's McCoy." And in my head, I'm like, "You're right. I don't believe it." But then he's like, "You know, and I've got all this other evidence and all this other exciting stuff that's going to come out. And you'll see. And then I sort of did the show with him in between that and his first documentary coming out. So it was like, it was very clear to me that he believed what he was saying. Not that he was trying to pull one over. Also, like, I'm pretty sure his channel is not monetized.
No, but he gives out his PayPal, Venmo, Cash App, and for good measure, his Zelle at the end of every video. And says, "Help me for a tax-free donation. You can send me." So no, he's grifting for money. That's for sure. He has $1 million and he has $1 million civil judgment against him as well. So he's definitely into the money. Yes, Elizabeth saying, "Sorry, is Grider the one that claimed to the parachute in McCoy's mom's attic, barn?" Elizabeth, watch my videos. I have a bunch of videos on Dan Grider's parachute. Go find them.
Even if you don't have a lot of time, Ryan made a short. So if you have 60 seconds.
Yes, I have shorts debunking this. Yes, Brad says Grider's a clown. Yes, he's something. He and yes, Uncle Jim says he should be fined for dumping into the Columbia. Yeah, he did drop a fake money bag he littered into the Columbia River, which, like, how would you even parachute out of something holding a bag? Like,
and also he clearly lets go. It's not like, "Oh my gosh, I can't hold on to this."
Right. He's on purpose.
He lets go.
I don't know. I don't know. He should know better, but he's a real believer. He's a real believer, I think. You know what's sad is we never got there's no Dwayne Weber book.
Yeah, he was my first. He was my
Really?
first suspect because I listened to Tim Collins.
Oh,
And it was such a good story.
Well, again, I say it a million times. Every time go listen to the Tim Collins podcast for Darren. Those are his best episodes.
Yeah.
Those are easily your best episodes, Darren. I mean, and like those are just like, because Tim is a great storyteller. Like he flows. He's a great speaker. He doesn't he's not, he's just like, I think Tim is also he's also neurodivergent a little bit too. Cause he's just, he can like just speak and tell this tale without any.
Yeah. In my 7 hours with Tim Collins, there's probably 14 and a half minutes of me talking.
Yeah. He's just like, and doesn't pause and doesn't go, he doesn't, not like me, doesn't have vocal tics. But I think my favorite part, you mentioned it in your thing recently, I think with Nicole, is when you're talking about Dwayne's copy of the Max Gunther book, and I did that part is so funny because he goes, Darren, look at this handwriting. Do you think that handwriting in the book looks like Dwayne's handwriting? And you go, no. He goes, I agree.
Yeah, because I'm so nervous to tell the truth because it's like, am I being set up here? Do you want me to say yes?
Yep. Because like, I'm like, you're like, as a listener, you're expecting him to be like, oh yeah, that looks similar. He's like, yeah, I agree. It doesn't look the same. And like, I think I laughed out loud. I think in the car listening to that, I was like, that's funny.
Yeah.
He's so like, yeah, I agree. It doesn't. It's like, oh, what is the thing? So Darren's got a good question here. Darren on here says, what is the biggest evidentiary contradiction that faces each of you? I.e., what is the one question you have outside of who DB is in Tina Bar? Oh. Okay.
Well, if we're not allowed to talk about Tina Bar, then
yeah. Well, I'll say one thing that bugs me, I would like answers on, is we have DB Cooper, Tina. We have two statements from Tina saying when she tells Cooper that we can't lower it, we can't take off with the stairs down. We have one statement from Tina where she has Cooper saying, and this is like in back-to-back days. We have Tina saying that Cooper says, whatever, that's okay. We can lower it once we're up. We have another statement from Tina where Cooper says, that's okay. Don't worry about it. The cockpit can lower it once we're up. I would like to know which one of those is true, because if Cooper thought the cockpit could lower, then he is not in any way adjacent to 727s, because he would know that the cockpit can't lower the stairs, right? So if Cooper told Tina the cockpit can lower it once we're up, then any connection to 727s is done, right? So for me, like that is an extremely telling. That would tell us a lot about, at least, that would narrow it down a little bit to say he's not a guy who knows the 727s very well.
Yeah, I agree. And along those same lines, I've always thought a lot about how does he know the exact ideal flight configuration for jumping, but needs to be shown how to lower the aft stairs. Yeah. So like, is the military plane, theoretically, he's jumping from a military plane. That's where he gets this knowledge. Is that plane outfitted much differently than the commercial passenger airliner is? And not just in what the aft stairs look like or how they function, but is the inside basically void? Do they have different controls in that plane? Does the pilot have the ability to drop the aft stairs? I mean, do we know exactly how those 727s were configured by the military?
Well, they had they had load masters in the back. Well, no, because the stairs, everything was removed. So when they took off, there were no, like, the stairs were gone. So there's nothing there at all. So like, I mean, when they took off, there was nothing, there were no stairs to close. Like there were no stairs to open or close on the military planes, on the military versions. They were removed every time they did it. So the cockpit, so nobody needed to open anything. They were already open when they took off. So nobody would have needed to lower anything on those. And for people who have never seen, this is it. This is it's a lever. Like that is the 727. It's like a shift on a car. You push it and push forward. You squeeze it down and push forward. Like it's not complicated. So how did Cooper? Yeah, like that's a weird thing. Like how did he not know? Like it's almost like, to me, it's almost an excuse to keep Tina back there. Not that he needed to make an excuse. He could just say, "You're going to stay back here with me as a hostage." But maybe, I don't know, because I mean, he seemed uncertain about it, at least, which is telling. You know, that he has such uncertainty about it. The military ones have no ramps. No. Do I have the video of them? I think I do. So Elizabeth, if you watch this video of these guys, I think I have the video of yeah, here we go. So you'll see them pushing out the back. Like there's no stairs or anything. It's just open. So the stairs are removed. And when these jumpers come out, like this stuff's just being tossed out. Like, so they're just going down a sled. It's like, yeah, there's no, so I said again at the beginning, the stairs are gone. See, there's nothing there. So there. So yeah, that's okay. Okay, yes, somebody is asking. Somebody mentioned, mystery bag 305. Great name, by the way. Saying negotiable American currency, or it would be nice to know if Cooper said U.S. currency or American currency. It'd be nice to know. No, the ramp is not the door. No, it's completely removed, Elizabeth. The ramp was installed specially for that plane. Like that's not the door. When they took off, they took off unpressurized with the door open. I mean, there wasn't a door. I mean, it was a ramp. It's a little sled. But yeah. What did Cooper say? Did he say circulated currency, negotiable American currency,
U.S. dollars, or
U.S. dollars? I mean, because if he put a qualifier on it by saying U.S. or American, the three of us would never say that.
No, when I'm in Seattle, I don't say, "Hey, can you give me my change in American currency, please?"
I know. Yeah, I want U.S. dollars. Like, just say, give me bucks. I mean, I guarantee you, Mac didn't say American money. Mac probably wrote, I said, I want $500,000. For Mac, it was $502,000. I want $502,000. That is, gosh, it really makes you think it was a Canadian, doesn't it? I mean, because I think flyjacking people who are Canadians talk about how if they live in Vancouver, Canada, and they cross the border a lot, they do have to kind of specify what currency they're after, I guess. They want it in Canadian or whatever, you know. Walter Recca claimed he knew the operation of rear stairs. Then why did he want to jump out the side door?
The side, yeah.
You know, no, Walter Recca was going to jump out the side door, Jim. And he said the stewardess, Tina, stopped him and said, "Oh, go out the back instead. It's safer."
Yeah.
Okay.
Because she would know that. A side door jump at 200 miles an hour is pretty wild.
Yeah. Especially because the engines are in the back of the plane on the 727. They're at the rear. Were there any weird or unique statements in any of the books that turned out to be true later? Yes. Good one. The packing cards. I would say that like, what was I saying? Is that like, now that we know that like, now that we know that like, we found both packing cards essentially from both parachutes. They were both packing cards, which means that only Cooper himself would have done this, would have removed one of the packing cards. Because he didn't want, it's almost like removing the car registration from a car you're stealing. He didn't want there to be any identification on this parachute. So he removes the packing card and stuffs it in the other one or throws it on the ground or something. And in Tousaw, that was a contentious thing because that was not ever mentioned anywhere in the Vortex. It wasn't in the FBI files for the longest time, but it's in Tousaw where it says he was looking at these, Tina saw him looking at cards essentially. I mean, she wasn't sure what they were, but they were just things, he was looking at from the parachutes. And it turns out, and now it seems like that's been proven, by the evidence because of that. There's Bill. Hello, Bill Rollins. Bill Rollins is in the chat. You didn't do Bill's book. That's maybe that's season 2. You can do Bill's book.
Yeah, we only did 2 suspect books, but I always shout out Bill has my favorite cover.
Yeah,
it does. Although Bill's book is not a suspect book, though. Remember, Bill's book is not promoting Joe Lakich.
That's true. I forgot about that. It is what he thinks happened. Yeah, that's right.
So I forgot about pre-Lakich. And so it's all about the boat theory. Although some people are saying, and like I've Googled Earth, that like the Lewis River looks pretty damn shallow in some places, like rocks, like a dried up creek bed almost.
It depends on the time of year. In November, you wouldn't really have much of a problem putting a boat through there. But there are times where, like, I remember like fishing at my friend's house on the Lewis River in August or September, where we moved our camp chairs to 10 feet from what would be the center of the river.
Okay.
And we're sitting in our camp chairs, the chairs on touching the bottom of the river. Yeah.
Yeah.
And there's different places, but I mean, in November, I'm going to say October through June, there's a decent amount of water in there, and boats are traveling up quite a ways. There's a couple of spots where you have to know where in the river to go, but you could travel that river, especially in like a little dinghy type boat. Some tough, light aluminum bottomed boat. You could bounce that over some things in there.
Okay. So it's enough. Yeah. I guess the problem with that theory though, is always just Cooper not knowing where he was going to land. I mean, he's got clouds beneath him. It's, by the way, did y'all find the Joe Johnston video interesting?
I loved it. I love Joe Johnston.
I know you do like Joe Johnston.
And if we could only hook it to the Jeffrey shoot, my life would be complete.
Joe Johnston, like what a interesting character. Like that, like I said, there are a lot of coincidences in this case, but man, to have a bank robbing 49-year-old new skydiver who's like a bush pilot,
semi-amateur pilot.
Yeah, all of a sudden, like come from Arkansas up to Portland months before the hijacking.
Yeah,
maps like that, and with flight maps between Seattle and Portland. That's like, oh boy, and it just makes you go, was he supposed to be Cooper and chickened out? And like like, I love the idea that maybe the accomplice became Cooper. Like maybe Cooper was supposed to be Joe Johnston. And he was drunk and didn't show up that night because he got pulled over and whatever. The night before he got nervous and drank and didn't show up, and the accomplice is like, screw it, I'll do it. And like, or whatever. Like maybe it was supposed to be a 2-man job. Yeah. I mean, there were several copycat hijackings where there were multiple people, multiple hijackers. So that, I mean, that there's several actually. And so maybe there's that.
Well, according to Skyjack, you have the whole Jake theory where there was teams of people that were waiting for this to happen.
Yeah. I don't know about all that. I mean, I don't buy that at all. But the Joe Johnston thing is like, that's so, and the fact that he dies, like, I mean, I know the guy lived a tough life, but like,
and he was not handsome. Too bad he didn't have a brother that could have been Cooper.
No,
he was not.
He looks rather. I think I have a photograph of him where he's I think I've got a photograph of Johnston where he is kind of decent enough looking. Where do I have that? Let me try to find that. I think it's on. Where is it? But but he is like the fact that I just think the fact that he dies so soon afterwards. He's not like 75 years old, he's not an old man, right? So like what kills him, and it's sad. His daughter died recently And it'd be nice to have talked to her and say, hey, what killed your dad? You know, and there he is. He's not ugly. You know, he looks all right in his World War II uniform. He was wounded in Germany. He's a Purple Heart recipient, and one of our suspects with a Purple Heart. Mary Johns. Bye. Ryan, you mentioned last year they recovered the discarded shroud lines. Did they ever test them for epithelials? Well, that's a big question. We've tried. We've been trying to do that. We've been trying to get the FBI to do a vacuum suck thing on it to try and get some skin cells from it. Because yeah, that could be. I mean, you have to like grab them to like put the knife in, pop them, you know. And so I mean, it's very. I mean, Colleen Fitzpatrick thought it was possible. You know, she didn't think it was likely, especially because we know that Tom Kay and them have been all over it. You know, the citizen sleuths. It all goes back to the hair slide. That's the only way we're getting this done is if the hair slide shows up somewhere, and I don't see that happening. And it's Cooper's. Yeah, it's got to be Cooper's too. Yeah. See, I've heard it both ways. I've heard some people say that those things weren't changed, but like once a week. And I've heard that they were changed every day. The little things on the back of the plane. So I don't know. But at any rate, so okay. Well, look, Nicole has worked a long day, so it's late.
I'm here. East Coast. I'm here.
I know. She's here.
I've been up since 4:30 my time. I'm good.
Oh my God.
It's okay.
You guys are real soldiers. To have gone through all these books and to read read like when I was listening to that podcast episode, God, that seems so laborious.
It was horrible.
For you guys.
It was not my favorite read of all time.
I mean, is he even a good writer?
No.
Okay. There's nothing redeeming about it.
That was good.
No.
Actually, there's no part that was good, but the only part that I could read and be like, okay, was the courtroom scene. Mm-hmm. Just because it was structured in such a way that, this follows this and this is where it goes and this is going to be here. But then, of course, you have the fantastic escape from apparently this courtroom that's on a cliffside that you could just run out of.
Yeah. Run down the hill straight into that woman's house in which she cooks you breakfast. It's scary.
But like he, like I don't understand how the people who think the Forrest Finn people, because like that book, the way you guys are describing it sounds so vulgar and like
scary.
Finn was a trickster a little bit, but I mean, I don't think he was vulgar though. It's not my understanding.
I mean, I have an understanding of the Finn case. I don't know about it. I'm not an expert, but like, I don't understand at all how that would attach to Finn or even his brother. It's clearly fiction. It's clearly nonsense. It's ridiculous. It's over the top. Like I would, if someone was like, I think this ha 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 book is the story of Darren's life, I'd be like, no, it's not. It's clearly not. Do not associate with me with that. Except for the part where all the ladies just fall in love with me instantly. That part.
It sounds like
that part's true.
Every single one.
Everyone. It almost sounds like I know Nicole is probably not yet, but Darren, do you remember the book Tucker Max? Remember the guy Tucker Max?
I hope they serve drinks in hell.
Beer. Yeah.
I hope they serve beer in hell. That's what it is.
Hope they serve beer in hell. Yeah. That's kind of, it seems like almost like Tucker Max. It's like, hey, I'm the coolest guy ever. I'm a scoundrel and here's my life story and I'm the most badass guy and all the women love me and I have all these tales. It kind of sounds like that. It sounds like a guy writing a book in prison about what he wished he could have been.
A very lonely man in prison.
Yeah.
Writing a book.
Yeah, it's much more exaggerated than Tucker.
Okay. It's hard to do.
It's so bad. It's so bad. Yeah.
Every woman falls in love with him, I know.
Yeah. I mean, every single woman.
Well, so Nicole, what is your favorite Cooper book now?
Overall, Skyjack.
Okay.
Overall book. But if it were, it's so hard because I love Paratrooper and I love Andrade's book too. But I think overall book, Skyjack.
Now, Nicole's read my book.
I have, but yours isn't published, so I mean,
what do you think of
once
it?
It is, it will be. Oh, I love it. I love it.
Okay,
Every bit
good.
of it that I've read. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's
Good,
4
okay.
parachutes. If we did the cigarettes, it would have been what, 7 cigarettes? It would have gotten Tina's cigarettes too. It would have been 8.
8 cigarettes. Thank you. That's what it should have been. It should have been 7 cigarettes, and the bonus would be 8. Get Tina's cigarette too.
Right.
Yeah. So you would have gotten Tina's as well.
Yeah. So
Skyjack
gets Tina's
parachute. I'm waiting for you to publish it.
Well, here's a question for you two. She says, "What is the first book a newbie should read?" You guys are qualified for this.
Mm-hmm. Skyjack.
Skyjack. So, get Jeffrey Gray's Skyjack, and with a new afterword. Okay. Get Skyjack, and I would say,
that's the afterword about LD Cooper, right?
Is it?
Yeah, the afterword's really good. So the afterword comes out when it goes to paperback. So it's not long after the book was published, because I have a hardcover and a paperback, and it's just got this real fun chapter of what's scary is thinking, could this case be solved in the 2 months before my book comes out?
Yeah.
And then in that 2 months, this LD Cooper thing comes out, and he's like, no.
Yeah.
Oh man. Yeah, but that's kind of how I feel. I mean, because my book is about the damn files, and I'm like, oh man, the files aren't out yet.
It's not getting solved anytime soon.
No, but I don't know, if I'd written it, if I'd released it last year. I mean, it's minor things, but if I'd released it this time last year, I wouldn't have LD Cooper being in a nut house a month before the hijacking in Portland. That's something, I mean, that's
You're
I don't know when it's
that
coming
way
out
with every file release you claim.
Yeah.
I know. I'm like, hey, Darren, look at this. Look at this. Everybody's like, oh, isn't this cool? Not everyone. Sometimes the only thing, I think 1 month, last month, maybe all we got was the only thing of any note at all was Robert Gregory saying that, Sheridan Peterson's lower lip looks like Cooper. It's like, oh, well, great. I mean, something, but it's not anything. You know what the crazy part is his name, and I've written to the FBI about this. I'm like, stop redacting Robert Gregory's name. This guy was literally born in 1900. I mean, the man was basically born in the 19th century. Like Civil War veterans still had black hair. At the time they weren't gray yet when he was born.
That's an interesting. I hadn't thought of it that age. Way, but yeah,
there were Civil War veterans.
Veterans were in their 40s,
or whatever, or in their 60s. But some of them still had black hair at the time. No. Teddy Roosevelt had just charged up San Juan Hill two years prior to Robert Gregory being born. Okay, and you're redacting this guy's name, the gunpowder that Teddy Roosevelt shot it in Cuba is still wafting through the air when Robert Gregory is conceived, and you're redacting his name in 2025. Stop. He's dead. I promise you. I assure you he's dead. I mean, good God. But no, so I had to inform them that because they keep redacting Libissanier and Gregory, and Libissanier has been dead since the 80s. And Gregory died in 81, I think. So, Gregory must have had really good eyesight for an old man, by the way. By the way, I'll share with you guys as I end here, in my latest video, my artwork I use for my video, I have a Robert Gregory cameo when the passengers are getting off the plane. Robert Gregory told the FBI, said, well, when I was getting off the plane, I snuck a look at Cooper. And the stewardess said, don't look at him, or don't look back there.
Yeah.
Because Flo was standing at row 15 and everybody was ahead of him. And Gregory kept staring at Cooper and she goes, don't look at him, So I've got here's a cameo here of Robert Gregory. Let me pull it up. Come on. Oh, it's a big file. It's loading. It's not that big. There we go. There he is.
That's great.
Yeah. And we've got
is that Nancy House?
It is, because she was in row 15 on the other side of the plane, So she's not sneaking a look, but there's Flo saying, don't look back, old man. So yes, there's my artwork. I had to have Gregory,
That's great.
Yeah.
I love those.
Yeah, they're cute. And like, I've got the one, I'll share one more that I found kind of funny is, Tina asking, for some of the money. She goes, hey, hey, there's a lot of money in that bag. Can I have some? Right. Where is it? Oh no, here we go. This is her saying, can I have some of that money? Because she said she was like laughing with Cooper. There we go.
Oh
Man, that looks good.
yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah, that's pretty sweet, isn't it?
Yeah, that's really good. I can't wait for the next one.
Yeah, and then yeah, it's cool. Yeah, yeah, those are great. I mean, they take a lot of work. I mean, each one of those takes forever. And I think, well, I'll do one more because I love these for everybody before we go. I'm really happy with that. I'm really happy with the way this one turned out because I just want to share it with everybody because I think it's what's wonderful is when all three stewardesses confronted Cooper, there's a moment where Tina hangs up the phone, and all three stewardesses was like, "Hey, can we go?" And Tina's like, "Hey, her husband's coming in for Thanksgiving. She really needs to go. You let Alice out." But there they are.
Oh,
Is they're trying to get Cooper to let him go, and I made sure Flo was glaring at Cooper.
right.
Flo did not like Cooper. I have Alice being ambivalent, and Tina's like, "Hey, please." Tina's begging with her hands behind her back, But yeah, I had to have Flo giving the death stare at Cooper because she was not a fan after patronizing her and making her pick up the money bag.
Right.
Definitely
I love
not a
those.
fan. Yeah, they're good.
So you need to hurry up and get your book out.
Yes. On the Japanese passenger, not much is known about him. I mean, he was an engineer, I think. He was interned in a Japanese camp during World War II when he was younger. I did find that in his obituary, which is sad. So he was a Japanese American who was interned. He was like 15 at the time. But there's that. So anyway, okay, guys, we'll been going on long enough. Thank you guys so much.
Oh, anytime.
For coming on, and
Yeah,
hopefully we still have a lot of viewers. So
yeah, I mean, I'm up. So
you're up. I know. Well, I don't want my door. Like I don't want Flyjack to come to my door again. A Cooper topic that deserves its own. Okay, there's one last question. A Cooper topic that deserves its own new book.
If you're brave enough, a Tina Bar book, I would eat that shit up.
Yeah,
but that's very difficult.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I
if
think
you
that's the
want
only
to do
topic you could.
5-year examination of the Tina Bar money and write a book about it, I promise you I'll read it.
I think that's the only topic. Because I mean, my book is about the files, So like, I guess my book is a new book, I guess. But like, yeah, Tina Bar would be the only thing that's big enough, maybe, to write more than a pamphlet about. I guess. I think you could. I mean, I was able to write more than I thought I was going to be able to about Tina Bar. Remember, I remember telling Chris Cunningham, I was like, I'm going to like shake things up. I'm not even going to have a Tina Bar chapter in the book. Everybody's like, where's the Tina Bar chapter? Like, I don't care about it. It doesn't make it, I was like, I hated it so much because I'm like, really, all it tells us is it's Cooper's money. It doesn't say anything. It's just stupid, and it just like, I wish it had never happened. Like, it's a nightmare.
But it proves, I mean, it gave us something. It proves that maybe he survived. I mean, we all feel like he did, but I feel like it just helps a little.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, yeah, I would say it definitely makes him, like I've told people before, it's contradictory, but like people like to say that it points toward him dying, but I think it points toward him surviving.
I think it points toward him surviving as well.
Right. Because the only way he dies and that money ends up there is if somebody finds his body and like takes it and then some other crazy thing goes on. Right.
Otherwise, it's going to sink in the Columbia, right? It would just sink if you find it.
Right. It's tied to him. It's tied to him. And again, he didn't jump at the Columbia. He jumped well before the Columbia. So there's that. But anyway, all right, folks, we're 2.5 hours now.
Then
so we're going. And anyway, okay, folks. Well, good night, everybody. Thank you, Nicole. Thank you, Darren. We will talk to you guys again soon.
Yeah.
All right. Bye, guys.
Bye.